Okay, so phase 1 being completed unlocks tiers 3 and 4. Most importantly of which, tier 3 is coal power. This is what we've been building up towards, and this is what we're going to make a push for. We need to research this and get it going as soon as we possibly can. Now, the good news is, if you've been playing this about like how I have, you should have the resources. I just had everything naturally ready to go. So off we go. Coal power unlocked, which is pretty exciting. This obviously gives you the ability to scan for coal, and there should be a coal patch right about there-ish, I think. That being said, that's not going to be the one we're using. I don't know if the scan's going to see them, but there are coal patches out beyond that arch that we're going to be using. Yep, there they are, and that's where we're going to be heading. But before we do that, we need to make sure we have the components needed to set up what we're going to need. Converting any blue slugs you have into power shards allows you to unlock the overclock production, which is going to be really important for us. So you're going to need that. Do be wary. Only turn the blue slugs you need into shards as needed. Don't overdo it, because later we'll be able to duplicate and get twice as many out of all slugs, which is pretty sick. So given how much reinforced plates and rotors we need, we're going to increase production. To do that, we're going to slap down a miner, and notice that this is still an impure node. But with our new overclock tab, we can make it act like a normal node by getting it up to 60. What that means then for us is that we can just duplicate what we have up there, this into that, down here. Grab a splitter. So that means we're going to need 2 smelters with a splitter. Like so. These over here are going to be making iron plates. And now, what we can actually do is we can underclock this one. So if you set it to 50%, it's going to work half as fast, which is the target rate we want on this anyways. Which means these are actually going to distribute evenly between the two, because this one's going to take 15 a minute, and this one being underclocked is also going to take 15 a minute. This is good to do because it saves on energy, and power is still unfortunately an issue, but it's okay because we're almost to power not being an issue. Okay. From there, throw down your assembler. The 2 iron plate machines are going to need to merge into one line that's going to be fed directly into that assembler. Then we need 2 more constructors that are going to be making screws. Excuse you. Okay. And those 2 constructors are going to be taking the rod from this. So with a little bit of splitter action. We can run that through like this into these. Note, we only need 60 a minute, so you can also underclock one of these to 20 a minute or 50%. Then with one more little merge, we just need to hook this all up to power and we are done. Now you can see here, it has a blue light on its little light post instead of yellow, red, or green, because that means it is producing at an overclocked rate, which is just important to keep in mind going forward. Never forget to check and make sure it's working. I didn't have this machine set right now, and I didn't have a storage container down. So always give yourself little sanity checks along the way to make sure that you are doing what you want. Now, rotors are kind of neat to upgrade because this whole thing is producing out of one assembly machine, but we can actually get another assembly machine out of just upgrading one of these because we were overproducing anyways, as it is. This does require 2 more shards and setting it to 200%. So just be weary of that. But that means that we can now split this and put the excess into our newest furnace buddy. We're making iron. And we're now going to do some adjusting to this design here. So, we're going to need 6 constructors worth of iron plates. Oh, sorry, iron rods, right? Yeah, it's iron rods. And we now have 3 machines, 3 smelters to do the job. So all that means we need to do is split one machine into 2, and we're good to go. 1 smelter into 2 constructors. This one over here is going to be a little ugly, but that's okay. Then the merging and splitting we were doing back here is going to need to change just a little bit as well. We're going to go ahead and pick these up here. With your deconstruct tool, by the way, if you hold control, you can drag it over multiple things at once. Can be quite useful. Okay. So we now only need 5 constructors making screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we have 6 rod constructors. Oh no-y. Well, remember that now we're going to have 2 assemblers working on this in tandem. And we're going to need that same merger with as tiny of a belt as we can. So with that, we're going to have to send about 3 of them to these 2 machines, which is really easy. We're going to do a merger here, and we 100% need 2 of these machines because that's 30 a minute, and we need what, 40? But 45 would be too much, so we have to run a splitter here. Run it that way, run this into its very own splitter so that you can go 1 machine, 2 machine, just like so. And that'll resort out iron rods for the most part. Now, routing them this way, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 machines left that only need to put out 50 rods a minute. So we can run them all into 1 merger. Running them all into 1 merger. It's going to look like this. You actually need 2 mergers to do it. Then we have 5 machines that we need to get to. Now, there isn't a good way to do 5 machines, but we're still going to try our best to balance it out. Which is to say, you're going to run this into a splitter. That's going to run into 2 splitters like this. Those splitters split to the sides. And I put this one in the wrong spot. Needs to be about there. And then this one's going to go into 3 machines in a really weird way because the belts didn't want to listen to me. But there you have it. So this will be our screws set up. And they're going to get rods evenly-ish. It'll actually work itself out over time. It won't be optimal right away. So this is kind of a manifold, which we'll definitely talk about later. In fact, you're going to get your manifold lesson really soon, but not right now. So secondly, we need to merge these outputs. And this middle one here is going to split omnidirectionally. However, remember, we can't merge them here without running a long Mark II, so they have to merge over here, which makes this really ugly. But that's a-okay. So you're going to do that. This one still needs to split, and one of the splits goes there. So if we had power to these guys, this would be one line of screws done. Okay, now for the next line of screws. It's going to be 1, 2, 3. And yes, I am aware that the belting for that is absolutely horrendously atrocious. But that's okay, because it doesn't matter. Right? We're not here to build the prettiest factories in the game. We're here to finish the game. And this is going to help you do just that. Gonna need more room on this, apparently. So, storage container, belt, merger, belt. And so here we have it. Once these get a rolling, we're gonna have dual production going on here, and we have really easily expanded our production for both our rotors and both of our reinforced iron plates, which is just going to mean we're going to get resources quicker. Now, you're going to have a little bit of time before you have 190 reinforced plates and 110 rotors. The copper sheets are waiting for you over by where you built copper sheets. No worries there. Do take yourself some time and collect more blue slugs if you can. Power production via coal, we should actually probably get the enhanced security asset first. Enhanced asset security, I can read. Reading's fun. And the reason we should do this is because it's going to make capturing or securing the coal area easier for those who aren't as comfortable with playing the game. If I were doing this myself, I wouldn't go for this. I would just go out there. So if you're feeling confident, you don't need this.
Milestone reached.
However, I'm going to tell you right now that the Xenobasher makes things significantly easier and costs two modular frames, 5 modular frames. Which, don't worry, you can just handcraft this, and that is exactly what we're going to do. You also might have had some heavy modular frames, not heavy ones, laying around. If you do, it's perfect. Makes this even easier. So, the Xenobasher is great because it just ups your damage tremendously. And it attacks, I believe, at the same speed. So, it's going to make any combat situations just a little bit easier. Which now means I need more reinforced iron plates. But when we have those, we're going to go adventure for coal. See you then. Okay, with the resources we have in tow, you're going to need to keep in mind a few things. One, you're going to have to build a lot of power lines. So make sure that you have plenty of cabling. 2, you're going to need a miner, because you need to place down a miner. Don't forget about your miner. 3, you're going to need a lot of copper sheets, probably more than you think. I would just take as much of it as you can with you. Same thing with cabling. You're just going to need a lot more cabling than you probably think you need. Because the build itself is going to chew through 240. So I'm going to walk you there in kind of fast speed. You can just skip to the location, and I can show it to you on the map if you wish. But I'm going to show you how to get there. It's going to be here-ish, I think. Might be here-ish, yeah. That's not it. That's not the one we're going to. We're going to one that's, like, over here, I think. It's fine. I'm going to walk you there. Do note, we're not going to be fighting anything along the way. So if you wish to fight something, I wish you the best. But if you see any blue power slugs, any immersive spheres, anything at all you want to pick up, feel free to stop your adventure and do that. If you're like me and you forgot your power shards, there is a slug down here on the coastline that you can grab for basically free. Just make sure you crouch to not anger the hatchery. And then these guys can be really aggressive, but just let them charge you. And then just, you know, jump, get your 2 hits in. You can hit them as they go under you, too. Just be calm and relaxed. They're pretty easy to deal with. Now, I recommend you build yourself a platform out from this spot. It doesn't actually matter which foundation you use to do so. Just that you do's it. And so if you didn't bring concrete with you, now's the time to remind you, hey, you should have brought concrete with you. And I didn't specify that. I'm sure there will be a note in the video earlier saying, hey, make sure you bring yourself some concrete.
Interesting, most pioneers already had coal power set up by this point because they understood their responsibility to humanity. Adjusting pioneer attitude metrics. Reminder, coal-powered generators require coal.
Okay, so if you ever want to make sure you place down the correct number of buildings, there's a really easy trick to that. If you go to F and you hit Control and you just scan across, you can count your buildings and you can see, oopsies, I apparently built 9. So I didn't need this extra row that I just added on. You can double check. Yep, that's 8. Easy. So we want 8 of these, and they're going to need both water and coal. The coal is the easier part, right? Because we're going to have 2 belts coming in. And those 2 belts are just going to need to split to 4. Which means that every other one is going to have a splitter in front of it. If you hold control, you can get these to line up pretty easily. And then you just run in, run in. You can use the straight if you want it to look pretty. Then you need 2 splitters behind those splitters, like so. And this splitter is just going to feed into the 2 of them, like that. And then these will become your 2 input lines for your coal. Now, the reason you needed a whole bunch of copper sheets is because you need to connect up piping. And as Ada's about to tell us, piping is awful. It can be really tricky to work with, and I'm going to make sure that you understand what you need to do to get it to work. So first things first, you need 2 pipelines. You can set it up however you want. I'm not even going to bother setting it up cleanly. But if you just connect 2 machines, put a pipe junction, connect 2 machines, put a pipe junction, there you go. Like, if you want it to look a little bit nicer, you can do it like this. And you could even angle the pipe upwards. But you got to be careful about angling the pipes upwards because the water has a hard time moving up. But that's okay. I'll make this one really high up so that you can get a little bit more used to working with pipes that go up exorbitant amounts. So let's just do what we did over there on this side. Okay, so the reason you need 2 pipelines is because these pipes only can transport 300 fluid per minute. These machines take 45 per minute, and if we look at 8 times 45, you would see that it's more than 300. So you have to separate it into 2 pipelines, so you might as well go 4 and 4 and make it look nice. And that is also why you're going to need 3 water extractors. So you're going to need 3 water extractors, and you can do this however you want, but that's really simple. They also need power, but thankfully you can just place power poles in water for some forsaken reason. Pretty cursed, but you can do it. I'm going to run that power up to here. Up to here. Okay, now, the trick is that they need to separate into 2 separate lines, but you need all 3 of them, because this produces 360 units of water, which, as you can see, is how much we needed there. Alright, next curse type. Okay, best way I found to do this. Connect the last one to the first one, and then place 2 pipeline junctions, about like that. Then remove this middle section of pipe. From there, you can connect this one. Put another pipeline junction anywhere on this pipe it'll let you. It only lets me do it right there. And do it like that. So what this is going to do is it's going to split the input up between the 3 as evenly as it can. Next, get your pipe up here and hook this side up into your pipe. Now, these only produce 10 meters of what's called head flow, I think? Overhead? Overhead flow? I don't remember what the terminology is. It's going to say right here. Head lift. That's the word. And 10 meters of head lift is about as tall as the machines, I believe. Which means this one, I think, would need more. However, we don't have to think right now. We can actually just find out. So because I need this on the other end, I'm going to run it all the way down here. There is a friend over here who might, you know, do friend-like things. Just be mindful of him. He's not an actual bother. So because I suspect this will need more head lift and I don't want to play games with it, I'm just going to put a pump right about there-ish. Just somewhere below the height of the machine, and it should be fine. This one will definitely need it, so again, somewhere below the height of the machine, and we'll be fine. So you don't want to have to transport water up too high, or it can get pretty awful, and pipes suck. We're going to do some debugging and troubleshooting in just a second, but make sure you hook all your power poles up first. Then take your power poles, hook them up to your main power line that you brought in, which means you might make some friends on the way, because I think there's some spitters around here, or not. And we've instantly blown a fuse. If you just blew a fuse, like I did, hook up your miner. And 2 of these biomass burners. And just give them any biomass you can find. While you are here, by the way, do make sure you're cutting down these tree things for mycelia. We're going to want some of that for later. In fact, we can deal with that right when we go back to the MaM. Yeah, so that was my bad. I forgot that our power grid was so close to spiking. So 3 more biomass burners with fuel in them for just a few minutes will get this whole thing started. Do be sure that while you're doing that, you actually split this and get this flowing too. So you split it because you don't want to run too much Mark II belt. In fact, it looks like I barely have enough for this. There we go. And you're going to run 2 lines of the Mark I down there. And so, if you did this right, we should see 2 lines of coal flowing in. And hopefully water in these machines here. However, it does not look like there's water in the pipe. So let's do a little pipe debugging. Ah, there's the water. It's getting there. So you can see you're getting good flow rate, max flow. So what we should see is this one's flowing. And if this one's flowing, then you're all good. They're going to be getting plenty of water. And this side should be getting water as well. Good. Now, the machines don't fill up water in the smartest of ways, but that'll take care of itself over time. You just need to ensure that the first batch of coal gets in. Once the first batch of coal gets in and gets rolling, this will be self-sufficient and you won't need to touch it. You won't need to do anything. If your pipes aren't getting water up and in, I recommend adding more pumps. So when you have this, you can see the direction the arrow is going. And you see that blue ring? If that blue ring is going all the way through your pipe systems, then you're good. If it stops, so if I built one up like this, and I put a pump down at the bottom, I might need to push it a little bit higher to see it. You can see, look at where that blue ring stops right there. That is where we would need to put another pump to keep the flow going. So you can actually see pumps create quite a lot of height. So you're really probably only going to need 1 for this type of build. But just in case you do, that is what you'll need. And you can see the smokestacks are smoking. And we should see all of them going, which is perfect. Which now means we should be able to disconnect these biomass burners. And if we now check, we should be producing right at our maximum production, which is 600. That's beautiful. So one of these things produces 600 watts of production. When you connect that, by the way, you're going to have to turn the fuse back on. So when you reconnect to your main line, don't forget you're going to have to turn your fuse back on. And that's going to get us up to a 960 total. Now, you're going to notice that there are 4 more of these, which means we can replicate this 4 more times. So we could easily get up to 2,400 megawatts of production here. And we're going to be getting rid of our biomass burners. So let's head back to base. Oh, and friendly reminder, before you leave, make sure you have 100-ish mycelia. You're welcome. How do you get that? From breaking down these types of things and the bone-like structures with your chainsaw. Okay, with that mycelia you had, you can actually do some mycelia-based research that's pretty useful. While I don't particularly care for the mycelia tree itself, this side of it, particularly with the fabric research, allows you to get access to a parachute. The parachute does require you to make some fabric before you can get it, but it's just mycelia and biomass, so it's pretty easy to get your hands on. And we really want this research because it provides us with our best way to go up. Now, that might sound dumb, because why would a parachute help you go up? And while I agree with you, it's just how the game works. So let me get this made and I'll show you. With our parachute in tow, first of all, it goes in your back slot. Secondly, learning to activate it. Really simple. Get up, press space, and congratulations. You can also sprint still, like using the sprint key to move faster. And you can cancel at any time with the crouch key. So how does this help us climb up? Well, these types of structural, architectural rock formations, I don't know, they seem to propel you upwards. So you can just kind of ram your face into this and we can probably get to the top of that. And I'll show that off right here. It's not always easy to find the path that's going to get you up. So you might not be able to do this first time, but it's very Skyrim horse-esque. You just kind of slam your face into things and hope it works out. You gotta find good angled rocks. Like this. And probably these over here, which might have been where I was before, but that's okay. Yeah. If you ever start falling, make sure you hit the spacebar again. Because my parachute just disengaged there. It took a little bit of wiggling, but there you go. And with just a parachute, some hope, and some dreams, we've collected our first purple power slug. And so now you can use this to get up any face that isn't overhanging. So if it's like a mountain face, but it doesn't overhang, you can use this to climb it. Parachutes are pretty great. So right now, I'm actually going to take the time to set up the next 3 power plants using all of those coal mines, because I just want power to be a non-issue for the rest of this playthrough for you and for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that up so that we don't have to worry about it for a very long time and we can just start getting our factories booming. The good news is, in the amount of time one of those takes to set up, the resources for the next one should be produced. The only difficulty is you will need a total of 6 power shards to finish. And, well, that means you might need to find some power slugs. The good news is, with your newfound movement capabilities, finding those power slugs should be pretty easy. So I really recommend that you go and get yourself those 3 new coal power generators set up, because the rest of this guide is going to assume you just have no energy issues. Time to show you how we interact with our first elite spitter. So first of all, they have fast attack that I wasn't expecting, because they normally do it in the other order, but that's cool. They have their slow for projectiles, and then this one's the fast attack. Now, if he's got onto your platforms, I'm going to show you a really cool trick called, whoopsies, he's gone. Alrighty, so once you have this all set up, you should be looking at your production, and you should see that you're making 2,400 megawatts. Your capacity will be a little bit higher if you still have the burner inserter, not inserters, burner, biomass burners. If you still have the biomass burners set up, then it'll be a little bit higher than that. But we're going to go tear those down right now, and it'll actually flatten out to 2,400. You don't have to tear them down, by the way, but they're mostly useless, so. So now the next thing we're going to need to make here is modular frames. We're going to do so by heading over to about here, where we're going to find that there are some iron nodes, and these iron nodes will allow us to make 10 modular frames a minute, which is a good rate for right about now. Scanner's not going to reach them, but they're over here. I'll show you when I get there. Alright, right here on the map is where you want to be. These 4 iron nodes are going to be the ones that we're going to use to make this. And all the supplies you need are on the side, of course, and let's get cracking. Okay, to start off, we have 2 miners that we need to place down here. You're going to need to route the resources either up or down. I don't really, care which way you do it. These should be producing at 60 a second. So this should be fine. No, I did not mean to fall. From there, you also need to place your 2 miners down here. Next up, we require 8 smelters, which is 2 per miner. Which does mean you're going to need to do a good old classic split. So really simply, grab a splitter, put it in front of the pairs that you have just made. And then run everything in. From there, make sure you get your power poles all hooked up and all of your smelters set to making iron. Alright, with that all set up, we need 7 constructors for iron rods. 7 constructors. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Okay, these need to be making iron rods, so make sure that you set them to that. So it is 1 smelter to 2 of these, which means that you're going to need splitters here, here, and here, and there. This is going to be extra line that we have of 15 iron. And then these... oh, it'll fill up just like that. Where'd that one go? Okay, perfect. Beautiful. So this will now all be the iron rods that we need. Making sure that we, of course, hook it up to power like everything else. There's actually a power line already running through here, which is perfect. This is going to output, what is it, 105? That's 7 times 15, yeah. So that means we're going to need to run it on 2 belts or use Mark II belts. They do need to be split 60-45 anyways. So you might as well do 2 Mark Is. Which means we're going to merge 3 of these. Okay. We're going to merge 3 of these onto 1 line. The reason we're doing that is because this makes a 45, since they are 15 a pop. And then the rest of these, we will merge together, which will give us our 60. Okay, now we need to take this set of iron rods and turn them into screws. Which... boop, 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 boop. You can do it like this. So these 5 machines are all going to be dedicated to screws. Doot, doot, doot. And we're going to do we're going to make a manifold here. So I think this is the first manifold that we have used. And manifolds in concept might sound scary, but it's really simple. As long as your input matches the consumption or is greater than the consumption, it will always balance itself out over time. It just takes a little bit to do so. So this belt line that we're going to run in here, this is 45 iron rods a second. That's not what I wanted. So as long as our consumption rate is 45 iron rods a second or less, this is going to work out. So by putting a string of splitters and running it in, this is going to fill itself out. Now, how does this work? Well, the math on it's pretty simple. Coming in, this is 45. This splits it evenly into 22.5 and 22.5, and then this splits it into 12.25 and 12.25, and then 7 point something. 1.25, yeah. That doesn't matter, though. What happens then is this one, which only needs 10 a minute, is getting 22.5, so eventually it fills up. When it fills up, the overflow goes this way, meaning this only takes 10 a minute once it's filled up. To really demonstrate and get it going, what we're actually going to do is we're going to hook this up to power and actually turn it on right now. That way, we can more easily establish how this works and give it time to buffer out. So this has to run for a length of time, not a particularly long one, it just has to run for a length of time so that it can buffer itself out. So getting it started now, you can sit here and watch what's going to happen. This machine's going to fill up with rods, then this machine is going to fill up with rods, then this one is, and this one probably will as well. Then this one's just going to get that 10 a minute on the nose and never fill up. So it'll be getting just what it needs perfectly. And by letting it load right now while we're not using the screws, it'll start up faster. So this is my recommendation. Get this started now. It's also a good time to check, make sure, are you mining properly? Did you hook everything up to power? Do all those checks, and when you're satisfied with what you've done, we can proceed. Oh, also, pro tip. Reduce this one to 50 to save on electricity. And instead of using 4 watts, it's going to use a little bit less than that, like 1.8 or something. Now we're going to take these screws, and we're going to want to work them into 3 lines of 60 a second. And the easiest way to do that is to take this last one on the end, which we have working at half the rate, which is 20 screws. And this one here, which is 40, merging them, and that gives us a 60 line right there. Then, with a splitter, we can take this one here and output it bidirectionally so that it ends up taking its 40 and splitting it into 20 and 20. Like so. So now we will have 3 lines of screws that are coming out at a rate our belts can handle and the exact rate we need for the assembler at the end of this. Now for the rest of this iron, it needs to be turned into iron plates. And again, we're going to need 5 constructors, 4.5 actually, but that means you need 5. Clear this foliage. Alright, and that's going to be iron plates, which we're going to copy and paste to all of these. This one at the end is going to be our 50% one. I tend to make it so that the one farthest away from the resource that's coming in is the odd one. Maybe it's 50% or whatever, the diminished one. Which you can do for balancing. And hey, look! We have issues. Why do we have issue? And set it to iron. This is why you double check everything. So iron plates, each one just needs its own furnace. And you'll notice we have 4 furnaces left and 5 machines. That's because, of course, the last one is a half a belt requirement, and we have a half a belt laying around from when we made our iron rods right here. So that one's going to come over and fill the machine at the end, and we're going to have our iron plate set up. Similarly to how we did the iron to screws, we're going to merge these two on the end, because we want these in strings of 30, and this is going to make 30 since this is an output of 20 and an output of 10. Then, over here, we're going to do the same thing. 2 mergers. Splitter between them. Running it through like this. Which is going to cause this 20 to go 10 and 10. And then 20 plus 10 is 30. So we will have now 3 lines of 30 iron plates a second. That being said, do not forget, of course, to hook these up to power. Alright, now we're going to start with our first 3 assemblers. 1, 2, 3, running it into that power pole for aesthetic reasons, of course. These are going to make reinforced plates. And as such, they're going to need your screws and your iron plates that we've sorted out. So each machine gets its own screw line. If you want to make this look nice, you can put a little bit more effort into it than I'm going to. And each machine gets its own iron plate line. And there you have it. Once supplies get to here, this should start making reinforced iron. Now, alright, from there, let's lay out our 5 assemblers. 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. I love where this one ended up. Okay, from here, with this, we're just going to manifold the resources into it. Which is going to work. It's not the best thing in the world, but it'll get the job done, and that's what matters. If you are in a rush, you can balance it out on your own. Because if you balance it out, this will start up faster. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So each output or input needs its own splitter. So doing this type of pattern where you offset the splitters and holding control, see these arrows and line them up the little lines there. This will allow us to split it nice and easy. Okay. So from here, just take this row, hook them up, like so. And then coming back, we're just going to do the same thing the other way, right? So take the far one, hook it up there. And this is the easiest way you could possibly do this. It takes little to no effort, which is why a lot of people do manifold. You do have to merge all of these onto one belt, which, if you have throughput issues, can matter, but at a rate of 15 a minute here, it's not going to be a problem. And so, just like that, that will be that all done. We need to set this to modular frames. Paste, 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 paste. Then, of course, do not forget to run it into a storage container. That way, if you're not here and it overflows, you don't have to worry about it. The easiest way to do this is just manifold it outwards with mergers. You can skip the last one, but if you just put a merger in front of each one pointing in a direction, then you can just run them all together. Fun bug. So you can run them all together like that, and then you can just get a storage container and do this. Then hooking up power. Boom, boom, boom. And there you have it. These should be building, in theory. So there we go. We're finally making modular frames. Now, if you aren't happy with how long this is going to take to get fully running, because it's going to be a while. It won't be fast. But it will manifold itself out, and it will take care of itself. You can see these three are not running anymore because they're not getting the rods fast enough. But as I said, that will take care of itself if you just don't worry about it. If you want to, as an exercise in futility, you can go back and you can try to balance this all for yourself, and you can have fun with that. I will not be doing so, but you can do it if it would make you happy. While we are over here by where our modular frames are being made, under this archway there's a ravine. Be careful not to fall into it. We want to go down into this ravine, but we want to do so in a very specific way. We want to get on essentially that rock there. Now the easiest way to do this is just to build any type of conveyor belt. Okay, we gotta actually build it, but build any type of conveyor belt down there. And... ow. Be mindful of these plants, by the way. Which means if we want to maybe take it from over here so we're not being bothered by the plant, that would probably be wonderful. Now, once you are on this rock, you need to be careful not to fall off. I'm just cutting this to make things easier to see. Yep. If you're a little shaky, what you can do is just place down a 1x1 platform. So down there is a big spider friend, or for those of you in arachnophobia mode, it's kitty friend. We want nothing to do with him, but we do need him to move. Just unfortunate. He'll move. There he goes. Perfect. The second he moves, and you can, just place a miner down. Don't worry about the direction it's facing. Just run yourself a power line out of here. And then using lifts, you only need Mark 1, since I think this only mines at 30 a second. A minute, sorry, I wish it mined at 30 a second. And then just run this out however you can. It's too steep. What's wrong with that? And if I had placed this the right way, we actually could have hooked it up to that, couldn't we have? Alright. With this coming out, what I recommend you do is put it into a storage container and save it for later. We do not need it now, but we're going to need a lot of this. So much so that I'm actually willing to put down, like, 4 storage containers. Am I willing to put down 4 storage containers? I think I am. Let's see. This way, that way. This way. So if you stack storage containers, and then run... Did I do this wrong? No, I didn't. And then run lifts like so. You can essentially feed the storage containers into each other, which then will allow us to store the resources that should... Yeah, there they are. They're coming. Just really slowly. Be running up and in. This means we now have 4 storage containers, and I always run it into the top one. That way you can access the bottom one, and it'll fill up from the top down. So if you ever want to pull things out, you have access to the bottom one. I'm going to make sure this is all properly set up before I leave. But, yeah. We're going to need this for later. Not too much later, actually. It's just around the corner. Which is why I wanted to get this started now while we're here. So, make sure your setup's working. And then grab 50 modular frames, which you probably will have laying around by the time you've finished doing everything in this section. And then head back to the hub, because we have an upgrade to get. And with basic steel production completed, what that is going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to make a foundry, which I believe is going to take more modular frames. So we won't have all the modular frames we need for this right this second, but we'll be getting them in a little bit of time. So this allows us to make steel ingots, which is going to require us to get our hands on more coal. Thankfully, if we do a ping, we should see some coal right about here-ish. It's also going to ping that there's like one here. I think there's one, yeah, I was going to say over here. There we go. These are the coals that we're going to go look at and utilize. So let's go do that. So before we head out to coal to make what we're going to make out there, make sure we have the right stuff. You're going to need 6 power shards, and importantly, you're going to need 80 modular frames. The rest of the stuff you should have on hand. Maybe you don't have the 12 portable miners we're going to need, so you can also get those right now. The 6 power shards that you need, again, preferably make them from blue slugs. If you don't have those, take the time now to get them. Do some exploring. You'll probably also need to buy some time for your 80 modular frames to make, so you don't have to make any by hand. So that's just my recommendation. Go find your power shards. Once you have enough blue slugs to make your power shards, you'll probably be close to your 80 modular frames. It should work out. If not, just do a little bit more exploring. Now that I've gathered my supplies, we're going to head out there. I recommend that you have extra reinforced iron plates on you. We're going to be using them a little bit more for belting this time, because numbers and factories are starting to get bigger. We're not going to be using Mark II belts for very long, but you need them. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to walk you out there so you know where you're going. But you are going to, like, the opposite side of this big lake that should just be straight north of your hub. But, yeah, here's the walk there. Right, we have arrived at the location, and if you give it a ping, you will see that there are 4 rocks, 2 here and 2 here. This one is covered by a boulder that we cannot break just yet, and that is okay because we're not going to need it for now. Who knows if we're ever going to use it, but... Miners on the coal patches. And we're going to need to overclock these miners. I always forget when I'm going out to places like this to bring power out, but if you had brought power out, you could do this all just a little bit better, because you could get this running while you're here. But that's okay, we'll get power later, it's not a big deal. Okay, so get them all running. Now, the problem is, at 120 a second, we're going to have to work with Mark IIs a little bit. And Mark IIs, in my mind, are more expensive than Mark IIIs, which sounds silly, but how I feel about it. Okay, next, we're going to need to probably clear just a little bit of space, so I'm just going to remove, like, this bunch of trees here. Alright, laying down foundries. Each miner is going to get its own set of 2 foundries. Then, there's going to be some leftover that we're going to have to deal with. So, if you take each miner, run it in to a splitter, making sure that it is Mark II belting. Apparently I faced this the wrong direction. 6. Yeah, again, making sure that it's Mark II belts, run that in like this, and then take the third output and just set it aside. We are going to need the third output, so be ready to utilize that. And then just do that for each of the miners. When you split it, by the way, you can go to Mark 1s, since these making steel take less than Mark 1, so... that will help you save on the resources. No. Okay, then we are going to merge all of those into one singular belt line, which shouldn't be too difficult. So just take your excess belt lines and plug them into this merger here. Now, let's sanity check ourselves. How much throughput is coming in to this belt line, right? So if this is producing 120 and these are consuming 75, that means 45 times 2 is 90. That means the output of 120 minus 90 is going to be 30. So these are going to all be bringing 30 worth of resources into here, which is going to make 90. And guess how much 2 foundries consumes? That's right, it's 90. But that does mean that we need to use a Mark II belt, and we just need to be aware of that. And then there you go, that should be that all balanced out. So from here, just make sure everything's plugged in, and then we'll be ready to deal with the second part of this. which is, of course, that we need to bring iron here. Yay! Iron. Okay, if you ping for iron, there should be one node right here that is pure. Oh, my mouse was a little off. There's a cluster up here. These two here I'm not going to use. They're not very useful. And we can't see it, but somewhere over here there's another cluster that we're going to use. So we'll start by hooking. I'm going to go around. I'm going to hook all these up. I'll show myself doing them, but yeah, we're going to hook them up. Now, the trick is, this miner here, of course, is producing 120 per minute. But we don't want to have to run long, expensive Mark II belts. So we're going to run long, cheap Mark I belt by splitting it like so. Alright, now that we've brought one set of iron in, let's go ahead, get the second set of iron, and let's actually draw power with us this time. Alright, now that we're at iron, this is unfortunately going to take 4 whole miners to get the amount of iron that we need. But that's because these are impure nodes, and there's no reason to, like, overclock all of these miners. You could. It would make less miners, but it actually ends up being more power anyways. So just bring all of these roughly together, and I'm out of concrete. Woo. Okay, since I had to go back to base, I brought power with me. Now we can actually have machines running. Hooray! Okay, we only need 2 mergers. There's no reason to merge them into one thing just to split them again. So just make sure 2 belts go into each merger, and then we can bring these 2 belts with us to the lake. You might run out of iron plates. Actually, I think I'm going to get more. I only have like 300. Because this will take a lot of iron plates, but we'll bring this over to the lake, and I'm going to get more iron plates. Okay, that is yet another iron line brought in. Let's go grab the last one. These are again going to be impure. So we're going to need to run 2 sets of mergers here. And just make sure that 2 of the lines go into 2 of the mergers. Boom. And hopefully you brought power over here, like I think I did. So that you can get this. all up and running. Now we just need to path it over here, which, since we're on top of the hill, is actually really easy. We have our 3 lines of 60. It would probably be easiest if we just merge them into 120 belts at this point and then fed them into machines. So feed them into a 120 and then split them. 2 of these runs into machines and the 3rd one just goes off the side. We're going to do that for all of these. So, and we're merging and then splitting, which feels silly, but it's because we're splitting it into 3 lines that we're doing this. If we weren't splitting it into 3 lines and we were splitting into 2, obviously we just wouldn't merge them. But because we want to split them into 3, we merge. Make sure that when you merge, the belt in the middle is Mark 2. If you don't use Mark 2 and you instead use Mark 1, it's not going to go fast enough, which means you're going to see this. Notice how they have to take turns. That's not what we want. We want them to be able to flow through freely like you see right now. So make sure that middle belt is 100% Mark 2. You make that mistake, you may never notice, but it would hurt the throughput in the long run. And then last but not least, one more merger. Into a splitter. 2. Okay, then this last one here also needs its iron. So to get its iron, we are just going to run a merger on the back side of this, I guess. And put all of those excess belts into this merger. And again, we've already done the math on this, right? But this is going to end up being another 90 per minute. And we've already done the math on it because we did the same math with the coal. It was just, it didn't have as many weird belts coming in, you know? And run that into a splitter. Goes to a Mark II. And then like that. And now we should have everything producing once the iron gets here. It does take a while for resources to travel long distances the first time. From there it'll be consistent. Okay, so this outputs 360, I believe, steel ingots per minute. So what we're going to do with that is we probably want to keep it in belts of 60. So we're going to have to do like every 3 get split and merged. So. Okay. So that's 6 belts of output. Right, so it's like, if I split them all, 30, 45. So if you split one, it goes 28, goes... Alright, so to make things simple, so now that everything should be hooked up and all your machines should be running, if they aren't running like mine aren't, it's just because the iron Still hasn't got here, but it's on its way, and we'll be running in just a little bit. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to keep these in belts of 60, probably, just to make things easier. So to do that, put a merger in front of every foundry except for the last two. And let's start by hooking these up like so. Did that one hook up? Oh. Also not in front of it. Very well. Okay, so these all output at a rate of 45, which is close to our desired 60. It's obviously not quite 60, but it's close. So we're going to get the last 15 for each one from these right here. So if you go ahead and put a splitter in front of these, put that splitter in. Gotta make sure it's facing the right way. Put that splitter in. Now if you just run one splitter output into each merger. Okay, hello. You just run one splitter into each merger, you will see that when we are done with this, they'll all be a nice and easy breezy 60. And I'm out of iron plates. Yay! Yippee! Iron plates. Each splitter has exactly 2 steel things going into it. So if you did this right, you won't see this, which means I did something wrong. And to find it, all you have to do is that. Yeah, there you go. So, notice how this one still has 2, but now it only has 1. So you're looking at that orange arrow here. You should see 1 from each of these. And that one has 1. Okay, good. And then you should see 0 blue or orange arrows coming from these splitters in the back. And that's how you know you split everything correctly. Beautiful. So you have your 6 lines here that are all 60 apiece. Now, what are we going to do with them? At this point in time, there are exactly 2 things that you can do with steel ingots. You can make steel beams, and you can make steel pipes. So for our steel beams, we're going to want, for now, 3 constructors. 1, 2, 3. These are really easy because they only take a 60 per minute. So you just hand them 3 belts like this, and there you go, they're all set up. Let's make sure they're making steel beams. Like so. And then let's do the classic merger into storage container. Hello, bird. Alright, and there you go. Nice and easy. We have steel beams being made. Wow. Great. Now, on the other side of things, we want to make steel pipes. Now, the trick is, we need more steel beams than we do steel pipes, long term, and we make more steel pipes than we do steel beams. Just the way the world works. So, I want any overflow from this to also make steel beams, which is where these 3, assuming I can place this one, gotta get rid of some trees first, I think. Where these 3 are going to come into play. But we're going to come back to that. We're not going to start there right now. Alright, next we're going to want to deal with our steel pipes. Now, steel pipes are going to be done a little weirdly. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to do a double merger with a splitter in between type of setup. This is too close together. This is not going to work. Double merger with a splitter in between. And what we're going to do is these are all 60, which unfortunately is 180, which is, you know, obviously too fast for what we have going on. So we're going to take them and make them into 120 belts. Like so. Then we're going to take these and run them into dual-sided pipe production. Because each of these belts should have 90 a minute on them. And at 90 a minute, with the pipes being 30, that's going to work out just nicely. Now, we are going to manifold it instead of doing it the other way, instead of balancing it. And we're going to do that because I want the overflow to be used for steel beams. But I really want it to, like, only be the overflow. And this won't be perfect, but this is... I don't even know how much pipe this is. This is already more than we need, I can tell you that for sure. Make sure the throughput is Mark II, by the way. This middle section needs to be Mark II. That is really important that that's Mark II. Okay. This is one section done. I guess we'll just cut these trees down to put the next section over here. Splitter. Again, this needs to be Mark II. Going through the middle. And the edge, I have these the wrong way. Yeah, I have these the wrong way. Awesome. And then these can be Mark I. Then this output here and this output here can at most be 90, which means they need to be Mark II, not Mark I. And we're going to split and merge. So, I did not need to place this down, I guess. Splitter here and here. And then merger in the middle. So pulling out like so. Beautiful. And then mark one belt there, mark one belt there. Both of these pass a mark one belt into the merger in the middle. And there you have it. That will balance itself out over time. And these need power. So you do those. Right, so these are going to balance themselves out, where they're going to get a full throughput to this one, and like half a throughput to this one, and it'll work out just fine. We also need to run them into this merger right here, which is going to mean this needs to be Mark II. And this will need to be Mark II because at 15 times 6, the potential throughput of that is 90, which is obviously greater than 60. Take it all the way. Oops. Get all the way to the front merger right there. And there you have it. So we will have steel beams being made here. And steel pipes we need to also organize. Easiest way to do this is probably do something a bit like that. These come out at, 30 a minute? Yeah, 30 a minute. Which means that once you merge them all together... No, it's not 30, it's 20, isn't it? Yeah, it's 20 a minute. So once they come out, these lines are 60. Which then means once I merge them together, it's 120. So make sure you mark 2 into your storage container. And this type of diversifying and using different belts is about to come to an end. So don't worry about it too much. Because we are going to be using Mark 3s and eventually Mark 4s. And we're basically never going to look back. We won't be touching Mark 1s or 2s. And we probably won't be splitting the belt types ever again after this. Really. So there we go. We now have steel pipes, which... If it looks like it's clogged up, that's because it is. Because it's overflowing right now. It will fix itself with time. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal at all. And this will all take care of itself. So we now have made steel beams and steel pipes. Huzzah! Okay, big time recommendation here. You're going to need a lot of these, like an insane amount more than you think. For space parts, because I don't remember what they're called. I think they're called versatile frameworks. The one we need 1,000 of right there. You can see this takes 12 per tube. So that means we need 500 times 12, right? Which is 6,000. That's a lot. So I highly recommend that you build yourself one of these. For later. As I said, you're going to need 6,000 of these steel beams. And you don't want to have to wait around for those. You want those to already be made when the time comes for them. There you go. This should be putting steel beams into the bottom of this now. Just make sure that that's happening before you leave, right? Like, is that number going up at the bottom one? Yes, it is. Also, I've been playing for 2 hours. Yay! Alright, now that we're back at base, there's actually some cool upgrades and milestones that we can get. I'll talk through each one and what they do for us. None of them are urgent. Like, it doesn't really matter the order we do them in exactly. But we're gonna skip vehicle transport. It's like, it doesn't, who cares? It's not worth anything. It's interesting, but it's not like good. If you really want to drive a tractor around, if you want to play with it, sure. But like, it's not worth the time or effort. If you really care about the 3 inventory slots, whatever, go for it. Okay, so in tier 4, these 2 we can't do just yet. So that leaves us with these 3. This is the one that unlocks all of the other things, right? So we can make all the new stuff. This one gives us access to industrial storage containers, which are just bigger storage containers. So you know how I made those stacks of storage containers? You don't have to do that the same way anymore. These are way better. So obviously we're going to get them. It's just win. And then we have the blueprints machine, which is going to allow us to start making blueprints. Although, if I remember correctly, the Mark 1 blueprint isn't great. It is usable, though, and we definitely will start using it because it's going to make our lives easier. Alright. And that'll give us access to the blueprint gun and the blueprint machine. Now, blueprints are really powerful. Ada's going to want to tell us all the wonderful stuff about blueprints. But essentially, we're going to sit down, we're going to make some blueprints together, unless you don't want to, you can just skip this section of the video, whatever. We're going to make some blueprints that we're going to be using a lot. These blueprints are just going to help us copy and paste our way through the game. So, let's get cracking. Alright, time for advanced steel production. And advanced steel production gives us a lot of new things that we can craft. I believe if I just go here, we can see all the new stuff. So that did unlock the automated wiring, which of course is needed for saving the day and whatever. We don't particularly care about automated wiring. It's the encased industrial beams, motors, and I thought there was one more thing. So, motors and industrial encased beams. So those beams, these are the ones that are locking the rest of our progress right now. And we would like to make progress. Because we would like to make progress, that's what we're going to do. So we're really after encased industrial steel beams because they are what allows us to make miners Mark II. And the Mark II miners really help with production. Like, basically putting 2 power shards on every single thing that you make is insanely high in value. So we're going to be producing those shortly. Okay, so we should now be able to get Logistics Mark III, which is the final piece of the puzzle here. So you know how we just made steel? Well, we're actually going to just redo it and redo it better. And we have the tools to do so now, because we have the encased industrial beams. Which means we probably could have done a tinier job on steel the first time around, and then come back and set it up better. But whatever, we're here now. We'll fix it. It's easy fix, and it's actually going to involve the blueprints machine. So in here, we're going to want to lay out foundries. And now the trick is that, I think, okay, that's as close as you can get it. So you want to get a foundry as close to the edge as possible, but you need room for a splitter, so if you do it like this, you're probably going to be off. Maybe not. It's also not supposed to be a splitter, it's supposed to be a merger. Nope, that works. Okay. And if you hit H, so H locks the hologram, and then you can move it with the arrow keys. And if you hold control and move it, you can move it one, like, grid space at a time, like half a grid space instead of a full grid space. So, no control, and then with control. And that's how you get it into this position. So I can show you again. When you build the next one, just hold control, and when you do that, it'll force them onto each other, as long as you are, like, pointing it at it. And then once you have one down, you can just line it up using control. So these can have Mark 1s coming out of them. Do not forget these Mark 1s, by the way. They are very easy to forget and hard to spot when they're done wrong. So just make sure you can see it in there moving. It's a little tricky to see, but you can clearly see it. I don't know how that's going to show up in the video. But you can clearly see that the belt is moving in there. And you can see that the belt is moving in there. Now, we're gonna need... Well, we don't need Mark III. So are these facing the wrong way? Ugh. Okay, if you have to pick up your mergers, make sure to pick up these conveyor belts as well. Because otherwise they won't reconnect. Okay, the blue arrow faces me. Nope. Mark 1... Okay, again, make sure you can see them in there. There. Alright, so now we're going to use Mark III. Look at that. Ooh. And we're going to do this on the other side as well. Okay, on the other side, line it up with this first porthole. And just take that all the way across. If you hold control, you can see if it lines up. Hold H when you get it there. Control and just tab it over one at a time until you can place it. Then you place it down. Then line the foundry up so that you get these two orange lines here. And then just Control H it until it would become red. So if I move it one more, oh, I did not become red. That, ooh. Okay, one out. So there's a little gap right there. That gap is what allows you to place this. You just need that little tiny air gap there. Once you have one of those down, you can then just place two more. And then holding Control, you can place the mergers like so. And get those Mark 1s in there. They don't have to be Mark 1s, by the way. I said we were going to stop doing that. In fact, let's just... boom. On my hotbar now is Mark 3s. We do not need to fix these, though. If you already put them down as Mark 1s, leave them as Mark 1s. It's so fine. Alright, then we're going to run one more merger at the very end, as far back as we can get it there. And just run your Mark 3 from both angles into it like so. Sick. Now for the middle part. The middle is going to use 2 lanes of 240 iron and coal. So what that means is we're going to need to set it up. Really simply, easiest way to do this, and this is how I recommend you do this. Splitter, so that it's yellow there. And same thing, and you just need that little gap there. Then, just do that. And then all you're going to do is take them straight across into the machine, and they go into both machines. Just like so. And then, from these front splitters, take them back like that. And there you have it. That's the inputs all done. It does not matter which one's iron, which one's coal. It will work. And this is manifolded out, so it doesn't operate at 100% efficiency right away. But again, that doesn't matter. Now, to do 240 on these belts, do also remember, you need to set them all to steel ingots. Thank you for the reminder game. So everything needs to be steel ingots. I highly recommend you double check this, because if it's wrong in your blueprint, it's going to be wrong every single time you place it down, and that's just a travesty. Words. Travesty. That's a travesty. So, 240 divided by 45 is 5.333333. Now, we have 6 machines here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these machines, right? And we're going to set it to that 33.333333, which is 15. And I could have just typed 15, but that's okay. And we are going to check that that works. 45 times 5 plus 15 should be 240. Hooray for math. And that is essentially the speed of conveyor belts Mark III. They technically go to 270, but 270 is such a weird number. So we're almost never going to work with the whole 270. We'll usually be working with 240, just because that's how most recipes work out. On the off chance you do get to use the 270, it feels pretty good, but 240 is what we're building with. So this is your steel foundry setup. We're also going to, actually, let's do power this way. Put a power pole in the middle here. And then put 2 power poles off on the side. Put this power pole up those machines, and then put the middle power pole. And then just do the same on that end. And then this will be the one you connect to power. And that's it. That's the whole thing. This is your output right there. You have your 2 inputs down there. We're going to name this steel foundries. I don't know how to spell foundries. IE feels right, so I'm just going to do IE. If you want to add a description here, you're more than welcome to. What I like to do is, if I am not going to remember, 240 iron, ore, and coal input, 240 steel ingot output. Select steel ingot, and then I tend to like to color things similar to what the item is. You can come up with whatever scheme you want. It doesn't matter. Save that blueprint. And now we can just... Excuse me. Save that blueprint. Yes. Hello? Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, that was just a bug. There it is. Wow. So now, right, we could go ahead and paste this down wherever we wanted. And it's just ready to go. So once you have made a blueprint, I highly recommend that you go test it. It's not a problem if you clear the designer, because you can just load the blueprint back in. And this does take the resources, they just happen to be in the chest right here, but if they're on you, it'll take them. So I do recommend that you go test it and make sure it works, because if it doesn't, it's kind of a oopsie type moment. Last time I went and picked up modular frames, I actually brought back some S.A.M from that container chest stack we made up over there. I recommend you do the same eventually, so that you can get this research going. Alright, shut up, Ada. And then get this research. And we can actually probably even get this one, yeah? Yeah, let's do that since we're here.
Sam
Veda would stop talking to me. Veda, stop talking to me. Oh, I have to make the... I have to make the SAM stuff. Yeah. Always something, man. Never easy. Come on. Alright, there we go. Okay. Now, this has essentially done nothing for us. That's just how it works. But it has allowed us to make these SAM fluctuators, which is what we're going to need to do when we get here. And this is what we're working towards. We're also working towards this, but that's a little bit further off because we need computers. Not this, sorry. This, which, same thing. You need circuit boards. They're the same exact parts, essentially. So we're going to get there, and we're going to get to automating this soon, but we want to automate this with all the SAM that we have stockpiled. So I'm going to go take a field trip and do that right now. We're just going to make as much SAM as possible. So back here, one constructor is all you're going to need because these produce really fast. It takes 120 minutes. We're not even mining that much, so it's not really a concern. Just get it in there, get it crafting, and then we can check out our new industrial storage containers. Wow. Yeah, which really simply, okay. Doesn't want me to do that, that's fine. Whatever. I'm gonna stack 2 of these on top of themselves. That way we can get basically the same capacity, actually the exact same capacity as that over there. Curve works, sure. Curve it up. And there you go. This is slowly going to drain our supply here until these 2 are full. And I wouldn't worry about it. It doesn't matter how fast that makes. You'll come back to it way later. But now that I have all the stuff to make the steel foundries we're going to make, let's go make those steel foundries. So the steel production we have over here behind us is cool. But working in that space with the trees is hard. We could get rid of the trees, but, like, I can't be bothered. So instead, what we're going to do is we're just going to make a little floating platform over the lake, which is now the second time I've done this in this tutorial guide let's play thing. Which is kind of funny. I just like building over water because it's easy, I guess. So we're going to end up bringing all of our resources here and building this here. So big platform just to make the construction bit of this significantly easier and honestly cleaner too. Not that that really bothers me at all, but some of you will probably appreciate it. So I just made this big. I didn't think about how big, I just made it big. So we're going to take, I guess, inputs on this side. That seems to make some sense. Hitting H, by the way, you can, you know, move, lock your blueprint in place and then move it as you see fit. And we're going to be placing 3 of these down. If you hold control, notice it's trying to place down the same one. You can even hit H to then look at it and confirm. Wow, it's placing it next to itself. That's crazy. Who would have thunk? And then we can place one last one down. Making sure that they're facing the same way is important, because this one doesn't look like it is, because it isn't. Which is something that happens when you work with blueprints for too long. This is correct. And the easiest way to know is just know where your outputs are, right? Oh, let me out. What? Haha. So these are your outputs. 1, 2, 3. They're all on the same side, so we're good to go. Let's run power through these, connecting to the 2 out of 4s, obviously. And then we can just run a power line down to the sand here. And I'm sure that'll find a way to connect up later. Okay, so there we go. There are our 3 foundries that each produce 240 iron per second. Now, that's a lot of iron per second. We're looking at 720, not per second, that's per minute. 720 per minute. Right? So what we're going to do with this is we're going to feed it from this mess over here, and we're going to plug it all in. Now, before we do any of that, let's get everything we want laid out here in terms of constructors and whatnot. Which means, hey, I think it's time we make another blueprint. Alright, constructor time. We're going to lay down a 3 constructor blueprint. I recommend that this first one is about here-ish. Kind of hard to judge where this needs to be, but it'll be fine. And so that will get us 3 right there. And then we're just going to run a splitter down the middle. That's going to connect up like so. Then out the other side. Place down your constructors. And now this is your input. We next need to deal with outputs. Which there's barely room for the way I set this up, but that's okay. Again, make sure you can see your belts in here. I've done this enough times that I'm like fairly confident I got them in there, but it's really easy to miss. You can just see the sliver of the belt right there. Another way to check for it, I think. Oop. No. Okay, same thing on the other side. I'm gonna try to put it as close so that they look the same, you know? And as long as you see that those arrows have gone, you're probably safe to go. And then for funsies, let's put a merger behind all this for the outputs. Then we're going to need to run power. And there you go. This is just a constructor blueprint. It places down 6 constructors that can maximum input 240, output 240. Which should be sufficient for everything we're using it for right now. We can make more specific ones later. Right? Or we can do a plethora of things. There are more options later in the game. For right now, this is perfect for our needs. When it's a generic one, I like to select the building. And then I usually use, like, a specific color. That seems fine for me. We can just use the Fisket secondary. And I use a specific color, that way I know that this is just a building one. And anything that matches that is just a building. Okay, so in order for us to get making stuff here, first of all, let's set down 6 constructors. And this is going to be for... what's it going to be for? This is going to be for steel pipes. Let's come in here. Set these all to be steel pipes. Okay. And now that's going to take 180 a minute. And if I pull from this... So 180, bada bing, bada boom, will get manifolded this way into this. How do I know it's 180? Because 30 times 6 is 180. Okay, great. We could also, double check ourselves. That's times 8, times 6. 56 times 6. Yay, math. Okay, so that's cool. Next, we're going to place down 2 more of these. And we can have them right up against each other. 1. And 2. We can put them right up against each other for funsies. So what's going to happen here is these 2 are going to need just a little bit more. Because this outputs at 240, yeah? But these aren't actually limited to 240. I wrote that down, but it's actually 270. And the reason that's going to matter is because these are going to be making steel beams. And, well... I didn't do any math, because I'm stupid. But 60 times 6... Jesus, it's going to be 330 when I figure out how to type. Which you can see is more than the 270 that we have coming in. So if we go 5. If we go to 4, it'll be 240. But we need just a little bit more. We actually want to have 5 of these. We actually want to have 9 of these. Sorry, we want to have 9. So if I did 8, that's 240 times 2, because there are 2 of them. We're going to have 1 extra, which is where we get 540 from. And the extras are going to come from that other belt. To make adjustments for the amount of stuff we need, let's start by removing 1 constructor from each side. You don't have to remove any of the belts or any of the splittering. It'll all work just fine if you leave it alone. So you can just leave it alone. So that means that we now have, counting, hold on, F, G on the constructor. We have 5 on each side, which should be a total of 10. Now we need 9, and because I want to keep things split evenly, what we're going to do is we're going to take this constructor here, and when we set steel beams, we're just going to put it at 50%. And we're going to do that to this one as well. So that these two, right, are both half of 1, which makes them 1. And then here we have 4, and there we have 4. So that's going to be a total of 8, which means we essentially have 9. Okay. Make sure these are all rocking and rolling. And then just make sure that these are set to 50%. You actually don't have to do that at all. It's just easier that way, and saves a little bit of power, because that goes to 1.6. So. Okay, then run a merger for both of these right there. And run this into that merger. And then run the merger into the setup. Bada bing, bada boom. From there, this splitter happens to have 2 outputs. So take those 2 outputs and run them into these mergers. Oh, come on. There you have it. So now, this is going to take our outputs, it's going to distribute them evenly so that we're making the correct number of pipes and beams. I just kind of eyeballed how many pipes we're going to want, and this is 120, which is a good number, which is what we're producing over there. And then I eyeballed steel beams and said, hey, we want a lot of them. So this should be producing 135 a minute. And that's a good number of steel beams. So, let's set up our storage containers. And we're just going to put 2 storage containers next to each other down here at the end, I guess. So, if this only produces 135, that means they can share a belt, which is awesome. So, let's do that. Uh-oh, I gotta get more steel beams. As I was saying, merge these together here, and then run that straight ahead into that storage container. Okay, now we're not done with this platform just yet, but I think it is time that we, first of all, hook everything up together, power-wise. And second of all, that we, actually hook it up to power. Oh, do these not connect? No, they don't. That's the point. It's okay. It will connect. And then let's run that over. The wire's too long. Okay, now, once you've plugged it in, it's worth just going and looking and making sure they're all yellow. If you have anything that's red right now, that means you did not assign it a duty, right? So you want to make sure everything here is nice and yellow. Which, I see all yellow. That's all I see. So that seems good. Now we need to supply this with its inputs. And you might, you know, you're clever, you might have realized, hey, we don't have enough inputs for this. And you'd be correct, we do not. So, we're gonna fix that. And how are we gonna fix that? Well, it's pretty easy. You see these encased industrial beams? We're gonna make some by hand. Now, making them by hand might seem a little ridiculous, but just trust me on this. We're gonna want to make some by hand, and this is a lot to make by hand, by the way. But we're gonna do it all the same. Okay, that took a whole 3 minutes. I decided to time it, so hand making stuff so chill. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be making, let's see, minor Mark IIs. We're gonna want 15 of these bad boys. So there you go, you have the rest of that stuff there. Make sure you have that before you go and try to build this. So unfortunately, everything we did over here is kind of for naught. To make cleanup easy, what I recommend you do is just remove the connection points coming in. That way, eventually, everything should just flow out. Anytime we have a connection point coming in, if you just clean those up, that'll make this process really easy. You're probably going to drop some dismantle crates around. You can pick them up at the end if you're really concerned about it. I mean, I will, because I hate dismantle crates. But if you let this work itself out, basically all of that is going to be cleaned up. And we're going to start upgrading the coal. Okay, before you pick up or upgrade your miners, if your inventory is full, you need to take these power shards out, because apparently they just vanish, which is baffling to me, but there we are. So you put 2 of them back in there, and you get yourself to 240, and then we can start running this over to the new location. And if you really want to make this look nice, if that's a thing you care about, you can use conveyor poles. Probably one more like that, I don't know. And then with conveyor poles, you can run it like this. And this will just help keep things looking a little bit more orderly. I don't always use these because I don't always care. If you do care, though, it's a nice way to make it look, again, a little bit nice. Let's try curves. Wow. Kind of fun. Alright. That is one coal down. Let's get the rest of them going. Alright, and there you have it. All 3 lines of coal should be hooked up, which, you know, should start filling up these machines here and backing up. And once we fix iron and get that supplied, then this is all going to kick off. So, unfortunately, to fix, we're going to have to make a whole bunch of dismantle crates. So, what I recommend you do to avoid that is just place down in a storage container. And you're basically only going to need these items here, so you can just throw everything else away. And by away, I mean just put it in the container. I need modular frames. Need those. Probably need like one of each of those. I think this will work. That way we can pick these up a little bit easier. And again, you don't have to pick this all up. You could leave this if you really wanted. I just would rather not. That being said, do leave the power poles, because you obviously still want power to get there. Okay, then throw all the iron. Upgrade it to a miner Mark II. And take the belt on over. And now that's the first iron. Should be coming on in, and we actually should see steel production start to whir up over here, which is going to be fantastic. Awesome, time to go fix the other two. Alright, and that there should be the last bit of iron all hooked up, and see that coming in any second now. There it is. And so with that, this should be steel redone, made better and faster. Alrighty, and there we go. That's all nice and cleaned up. Our factory has officially been relocated to over the lake. And now, after backtracking a lot, it is time for us to set up our industrial encased steel beam production, which is going to utilize this production, which is why we had to come do this first. I expanded the platform a little bit, and we're going to need to lay down some more constructors here. We're going to need 2 sets of 6 constructors for what we're needing. And this is going to be for concrete, because encased industrial steel beams take concrete. So these here all need to be set to concrete. Alright, now that those are all connected, it is our job to go bring limestone here. Unfortunately, the amount of limestone we need to bring is 540, which is 3 Mark II miners, 2 1-pier nodes, 1 on anything else. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And if we search for limestone, there should be one right next to us that's normal. There should be a pure one here and a pure one here. So we're going to take these, route them here, and then we're going to take this one and route it here. Because it's a normal mode, we can use a miner Mark I instead of a miner Mark II. So we probably made a few too many encased beams by hand, and that's okay. Didn't hurt. Alright, now to hook this up, we're going to put a merger in front of each set of constructors here. And then we are just going to run these into them like so. And like so. Then we need one splitter, which we can place here, should be fine. And that splitter is gonna run in and across like that. And we're just gonna take this and run this in here. And there you go. That should be the full throughput for limestone needed here. Which then means in this space here, we're going to finish her off with encased beams. Now, we already have all the stuff we need. So encased beams are really easy. We're just going to slap down 5 assemblers and we're done. Basically. I mean, we have to hook stuff up, but like... one more row. 5. Goes up. Alrighty. Encased steel beams all the way. And the amount of steel beams in concrete is less than 270, which means we can just run it all on one belt. Don't even have to worry about it. And we can do so with a splitter. This is going to look similar to how we did modular frames. Yeah. Because then we're just going to offset this, and then we're just going to place that down all the way through behind. Pull everything over to the side. And pull everything up and through. There you have it. Then take this, run that in, and there are steel beams coming in. I'm gonna throw these into a container, even though they should be getting used at the same rate they're being produced. So this container should never fill, but just as a backup in case it does fill, that would be, you know, wonderful. Alright, then these need power. Or did I hook them up to themselves? I did. Find any open power cable. Anywhere? Hello? Please? Yes. And there you have it. They're all up and running. We can run that into one more little storage container. And we can do so with mergers. Because the output on this is a tremendous 30 a minute. And, you know, 30 a minute is really good for these. It's a good rate. It's a rate we're going to be happy with probably forever. Can't imagine we're going to want too much more than 30 a minute. And there's you have it, our first batch of encased beams. Woohoo! I was analyzing production rates of our machines here at the Foundry Forge area, and I was looking at this, and I realized if you take those away and make it Mark 1 and run it into a splitter, you're actually gonna perfectly balance stuff. Instead of, like, it being just okay. So this will actually perfectly balance it. And if you care to fix it, you can go back and replace all of them so they're marked 1. And now what will happen is, because it's being split to 60, it's going to be 180 this way, 60 that way. And so it should work out better. And yeah. Yep. And that's just if you don't want to wait around for things to load balance themselves out. Because it would, but it doesn't matter. This makes it slightly more efficient in the short term, so. Alright, now with it being motor time, make sure you have yourself the supplies for 17 assemblers, 50 constructors, 16 smelters, and 4 miners Mark II. We're going to head back and get this built right now, but, you know, just have that stuff ready. Okay, so for our smelter stack that we're going to make, so that we can just copy and paste it as we need, what we're going to do is we're going to place a splitter in the corner and then a merger just a little bit of ways from it, because that's going to give us a spacing guideline to work with. And then we're going to place down 4 smelters. And we're going to do 4 because we want 2 sides of 8. So from there, go ahead and, I forgot to play the game for a second, grab yourself a splitter. And we're just going to put this splitter going down the middle here. There we go. And then we can hook up smelters on the opposite end, holding control and pointing them at themselves so that this all works out. And I just realized these splitters are facing the wrong way, aren't they? Because they're coming out this way. Okay, if you made that mistake like I just did, don't tear it down. This is now the front and that side's the back. Whatever. So in here, this is going to be where we feed in to these. So that's your input, right? Which then means if we go over here and just slap down mergers and make sure they're going that away. And you don't have to put a merger here, which will help you remember that this is the input and this is where the output goes. Nice and easy. And I just said don't put one there, and then here we are. You just connect everything up. And then what this will allow us to do is it'll allow us to put a merger right here for the output. Because this is going to take in 240 and it's going to output 240. If you want, you can have a little nublet there. And I didn't make room for... Well, there would have been room had I done this the other way, but that's okay. That is totally fine. Next up, we just need some power in here, which is going to be something like this. And there you go. That is power all sorted, and that is a very quick blueprint smelter array thingy. 8 smelters, 240 in, 40 out. We're using the secondary for that, and there you go. And that's all we need. So we can clear this and pick this up. Minor mistake I made within the blueprint is I didn't hook up these going outward. And this is why you always should double check your stuff. And then on this side, I didn't connect that up. Go through, do one last double check. These are all hooked up. Okay, that looks better. Go ahead and save that now. Alright, so first of all, we're going to need to process our copper. And this is going to be what we're using this for. Except We don't need... I'm just going to wait for this to finish. We don't need these smelters in the back here. Because this only is going to need 4 smelters. And it isn't, like, always optimal to just make and destroy stuff. But for our needs and, you know, just getting set up for the future, it's a fine thing to do. Okay, so there we go. There is that done and dusted. We can even hook this up to some power, maybe. Except for the fact that there's nothing to actually hook it up to. There we go. So that these are all nice and ready to go. Making this easier, I'm just going to pick these up. It'll also make it a little bit more compact. Not that I super care about that, but just because we had so many problems with it already. Now we're going to want to run that into some constructors. And so we're just gonna place this down. And all we're gonna do is line it up with this here. Like so. And there you have it. Now, this consists of 6 constructors. And, well, we actually need it to be 8. I did not control that properly. Okay. Beautiful. So we just have to expand it by 1, which means I don't like the constructor design we have, but that's okay, because we're going to have to rebuild it anyways, so when we rebuild it, well, there. Okay, and then place a merger. Yep. Run this through. Run that through. So these constructors are going to be making copper wire. Yep. And so it's going to take 240 copper wire, which is, not copper wire, copper ingots, which is what we're making over here. And then it's going to feed that into these. Sorry, 120, right? Yeah, this makes 120. This is going to take 120, and it's going to output 240. So we're going to have 240 copper there. And if I can hook this up to power, beautiful. Don't forget that when you add onto the end like this, you're also going to have to hook them up to power, because they won't have power by default, and yeah. Alright, so that's our copper wires done. And all of this is going to let us make stators. And since we have the copper wire here, and we have pipes in that one, this should be just as easy as running 6 assemblers right here. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will work. I just need a little bit more foundation. Then we just do the classic dual splitter setup, which is just splitters offset in front of the outputs, using control to line them up. And then, of course, like all things, this will just manifold itself out, and that'll make us happy. If you're wondering why haven't we blueprinted this yet, this is one of those things I just save for when we have the Blueprint Machine Mark II, because you can do it more compact and better in there, so it's just, like, might as well wait. Not in a rush. And then we'll have better belts to work with, and, you know. So it just makes sense, because these are not the belts we're going to be using for the rest of forever. Can either of you hook up to this? Yeah. So that right there will feed the copper in, and Just a little bit of work, not too much. Probably get these to connect up pretty nicely. But that's okay. Alright, so that'll be steel pipes coming in. And what we're going to do now is we're going to set these to be making stators. And stators are items that aren't super important. So we're not going to dedicate like a whole factory to stators or anything. Because they really aren't used in anything. Like, no building requires you to have them. And they're only used in making motors and automated wire. And as you can see, we need 100 automated wire, but that just means we need 100 stators laying around. So by getting this set up first, and getting it running, we should have 100 stators laying around by the time we are ready for that. Even though the rest of them are going to be going into motors. So, like, everything we're doing here is going to go into motors. But, despite that, right, despite the fact that everything we do is going to go into motors, these are going to just be slightly needed, so, yeah. And we'll have a few of them because we're going to put them in a storage container right now. Yay, storage container. Let's run the storage container out the backsies for funsies and kind of space efficiency. I am going to need to get my hands on more steel beams. Now, all we need to make this run is we need to go supply it with that copper. So, I'm going to pick up some steel beams and let's go get copper roll. So, scanning for copper, right over here, where we found our iron that we're currently using. I don't know if I can make it here. Ooh. This is actually where we're going to get our copper from. Okay, perfect. So, there is another 120 copper deposit, and there's a guy who likes headbutting you, but, you know, stand on top of this or whatever. And this is going to be the exact amount of copper we need. So it works out pretty well, all things considered. And we just need to get that over here where we can utilize it. Don't know if we can make it all the way over there. No, we can't. That's okay. Alright, and there is our copper coming in, which I'm going to make sure that this all runs, but we should see stators being stacked up in there within just a matter of seconds here, probably about a minute to really see anything happen, but I'm going to watch this and make sure it runs, because that's what you do! Okay, now I don't know how much room we're going to need here, but we're going to need a lot of room. So we're going to build this all the way as far back as we can, because this is going to take up a lot of space. So let's make this as compact as we can, without making it hideous, of course. So we're going to need 2 sets of 8 smelters, which... boom. Because we're going to need to process a lot of iron. Now we only need 12 of these smelters, which means on this second one, we can cut out these last 4. And we're not going to properly balance them. because when we transport the goods in, they're not going to be properly balanced. So we might as well split them accordingly, right? It'll also make things just a little bit simpler, maybe, in terms of the output. I don't know, I haven't really thought that far ahead. This is not a node, is a merger. Is it a merger? It should be a merger. Oh, it was facing. Alright. So there you have it. We have our 2 stacks of Ferni, which we do need to hook up to anything. And then we need to set them to smelting iron. So both of these here are going to be making iron. I'm falling, help. And make sure they're all on iron. You'll know you set them because the red light is going to go to yellow, and that's what we're looking for. Make sure they're all yellow. Alright, from there, this is the space-heavy part. This is the part that's going to take up, like, all of the room we have. Which is that we're going to need 24 instructors making iron rods. It's actually 23, but, yeah. So let's see, get them facing this way, I guess. Line it up there-ish. Oh, it's the wrong way. The input needs to be here on the back side. Okay, so this is going to be 1. Not lined up. Doesn't look like it is. What is wrong with this? Is it not facing the right way? There we go. 2. Oh, this is ugly. It's not gonna fit. 3. And 4. So these are all going to be making iron rods, which means that 6 of these need a lane of 90. So now that you have all your constructors laid down for that, just make sure that you go around and copy and paste everything to be on iron rods. Once you've done that, just hook everything up together for power. And what this will allow you to do again is just check for anything that is red. Because if you see any red lights once this is all hooked up, that means you didn't assign it a job. So you can see they're all yellow, which means I've done it correctly. I need to go pick up more cables from base, so I'm going to do that and continue. Since I had to go back to base, we might as well pick up the iron that we need to transport in. And there are the iron nodes we're going to pull from. We need to bring power to them, but there should already be power out here because I think this is near where we made copper sheets. You can see that that's true. Right there. So we just got a yoink from this power line, and as I said, we might as well just bring that in right now. So laying down and connecting up your 3 miners here. 2 of them are just going to go into a merger together. And then the final one is just going to be ran alongside them. Because these are all outputting at 120, which means we have to use 2 belts with our speed of belts. So we're going to, run those up and over here where we're doing all of our works. So one thing that's super useful when you're hooking these up is if you could actually remember which is the 120 and which is the 240, that would, you know, be useful information. I forgot which is which as I was laying them out. And I wove them over each other a couple times in here, so it's not even like I could really tell you. So, here's what to do in that scenario. Just make sure that when you get this running, you come and look at them and see which one is moving faster, which one's moving slower. If you have the 120 hooked up to this one, your iron supply is going to be minuscule. It's going to dwindle. You could probably see it right now, but because these are going to overfill, you might not because of how far they had to travel. So you may have to wait till you actually get everything running. And speaking of which, let's, you know, continue working towards that. So let's get these iron hooked up to all of these iron rod factories. This is going to be a little tricky because of the way we have to do this. Essentially, for both of them, we need to quadruple split. Which just means take your iron, run it into a splitter, run that into two splitters. And then, if you would just let me. You steep. Whatever, fine, go. And so now you have 4 lines here, all of which have 30 on them. And we're just going to do the same thing here. We're going to do a double split. So splitter there, splitter there, splitter there-ish. And then just pull out 2 from each. And so these are all going to be 60 each. Then all we have to do is merge them together. So it's probably best... No, it's definitely best to run the merger over here, so let's just go... merger 1, 2, 3, 4. Do something like this. No, not like that. They're too close together. 2, 3... Then, from this section, nope, not there. One belt goes into each merger. And then from the back, right, over here, you just do the same thing. One belt goes into each of these mergers that we have set up over here. And yeah, this is gonna look hideous, but it's gonna work, and that's what matters. Then each of these mergers is just gonna run into these inputs here. And that is how you're gonna get your iron rods going. So now just do that for the rest of them, and yeah, and we'll carry on. Okay, now we only need 22 and a half of these, so from the last one, there's no particular reason why the last one, just the last one. Remove one of the machines, set one of them to 50, and there you go, that'll take care of itself. You're now going to have the correct ratios of things. So now would be a good time to come back and look at these, and you can clearly see that I messed up. It's really obvious. This is definitely a 120, and this definitely must be the other one. So... sure. Wow. I sure did fix it, didn't I? And this is all it takes to fix that type of mistake. Just make sure you're aware of it, though. Because it's time to place down more constructors. Woohoo! So we have room for our constructors here, so let's just start placing them down. I love the way these like rotating. It's super sick. That's 2, and we need a third set of constructors. Okay, and that right there is 18 constructors. Now, we need 19 constructors. So on this last one right here, just go ahead and place down 1 extra constructor. Just run that straight into it. We're going to need to hook you up to power somehow. That shouldn't be too hard. We're going to just find the power pole. Cool. And then we need to add another merger on the end here. Not that runs that way. No, no, bad. That runs out like this. And then we can just run that into a merger like there-ish. Looks a little ugly, but it's gonna work. And that's all that matters. So same deal as before. Hook these all up to power. And then once you have hooked them up to power, what we're gonna need to do is... I gotta find a power pole. Oh, this is the hard part. Okay, make a new power pole. And hook them up. So now we're going to need to set these all to making screws. This is going to make a lot of screws, but that's okay. We'll deal with that one at a time, right? Once you have these all powered up, you can take a look and make sure they're all nice and yellow, which they are. So, fantastic there. Fantastic. This is too far over now. Okay, whatever. Thumbs up. Big thumbs up. Okay, so from there, make sure this one on the end that we added, the 19th one, is set to 75. This is going to make it make 30 screws, which means if you can do your math on this, 6 times 40 is this, plus that is the rate of the belts. So that's as fast as our belts can deliver screws. So what that means is we're going to have 3 individual lines of screws coming out of here. So there's 1, there's 2, and then the third one is here. And I'm just going to run it down somewhere over here. Great. So there are the 3 screw lines that we're going to need to get out of here. Okay, so with our iron rods, we need 190-ish of them to go into the screw machines. And we need 150 of them to go into rotors. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a clean way to split this. So all we're going to do is we're going to start by merging them into 2 different sections. So the back 2 are going to go into 1 belt here. And then these 2 are going to run into a belt here. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a 2-to-2 load balancer. The concept is really simple, and I'll come show you over here. I'll pretend like we just did this, like we're just doing this. So we have 2 belts of input. Right, so here are our 2 belts, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that these belts have the same quantity on them. So what that will cause to happen is one side needs 180, one side needs 150, and this will load balance it for us. Because one side will get more or less than it needs, right? And it'll manifold itself out and it'll just work. So we just want to split them so that they're getting equivalent-ish amounts, and it'll work itself out from there. So, all you do is you run them each into their own splitter. They don't have to be offset or anything. In fact, I usually don't offset them, but just to make it easier to look at, this is how you do it. Then, 2 mergers. This splitter runs into both mergers, and then this splitter runs into both mergers. In not the ugliest way possible. And there you go. This is a 2-to-2 load balancer in, like, its simplest form. So this means if I put 100 items on this belt, 50 and 50 go to each side. If I put 100 items on this belt, 50 and 50 go to each side. If I did something like 70 and 30, they're still both going to get 50-50, right? Because 70 plus 30 is 100, and it'll cut them in half. So this is the basic idea, right? And then we're going to go do this, but like slightly smaller. Doesn't need to be as big as I just made it. So, running from the merger into a splitter on both sides. I am sure that there is a prettier way to do this than how I am going to do it. But, pretty is not my thing. So, run in, straight from here, and then run into the opposite. Oh, nope. Run into the opposite merger. Run in straight from here, run into the opposite merger. And there you go. The mergers now have their 2 separate lines. Put a splitter here. And this will allow us to feed all 3 of these here machines so that we can make screws. And there we go. We have screws being made. And then this line here is going to be reserved for iron rods in the near future. How near is the future? I don't know, but near future. So with all that set up, we're going to try to get our assemblers in this space. It's going to be a little bit of a tight squeeze. So just be mindful of that. And how we're going to do it is we're going to place an assembler down. We're going to place 2 splitters close to it. And they need to be facing the right way, which this one isn't. So that we can take in from this side. And then we're going to put another assembler close like that. And this should give us enough space for this. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, it's going to be tight, and if you don't have room, it's okay. I don't expect everyone to build the exact same way. All you need to do is just build another platform, you know, up above. It's pretty simple. Just do something like this. And then, congratulations, you have a new platform to build on up above. So if you already have ran out of room, that's the easiest solution to this. And remember, we're trying to beat the game, not build off of aesthetics. So it's fine if it looks a little messy. Okay, with these here, we're going to be making rotors. And one thing you're going to notice is they take 100 screws, Scoobs. That's so many screws. Now, if you're following along, we have 7 of these. It's going to be 7.5, but we still have 7 of them. 7.5 means we need 750 screws, and you might be surprised to find out our belts can't handle that at all. Not even close. It's literally, it's not even close. So, we're going to have to do something a little funky. This is facing the wrong way. We're going to have to do something a little funky to get this to work. But it will work, so don't stress. Just get your splitters put down in place. And we'll set up the iron rods first. Because the iron rods are the easy one. That did not line up at all. That's cool. The iron rods are going to be so easy. So this line right here is going to be your iron rods. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of clipping in here. I'm just doing this super compactly, so That's how it goes. Alright, and that's your iron rod line, so we can take those excess iron rods that we set aside somewhere right here. Beautiful, and we can run that over there. Let's go with default mode, yeah. Wonderful. And there you go, curve that in. Now, one thing you may have noticed, because you're very astute, is that if each one needs 200, right? And currently, our belts over here of screws are 240, 240, and 270. How are we going to split them up, right? And the answer may shock you, but it's we need to make 3 belts into 4 belts. Now, the good news is, this is simultaneously easy and annoying, but it's doable. So all we're going to do is we're going to place down 3 splitters, which I may or may not have room for. We can split up. We can do it like this, yeah? Yeah. Run each of these into those splitters. And then we want 4 lines. So we're going to place down a merger, which, yeah, I guess we have room for it right there. And this merger is going to need 1 line from each of these. And oh boy, it looks like it's clipping time. Beautiful. So this right here is your 4th line of belts. Now you have 1, you have 2, you have 3, and you have 4. So how does this work exactly? Well, because we're pulling a line from each of them, this line is always going to have 270 on it, right? Because 240 divided by 2 is 120, plus 120, plus 270 divided by is something, and it doesn't matter what it is, but it's like 130, it's probably 135-ish. And you can see that's more than 270. So this is always going to output its full maximum. But what's going to happen is once this is fully consumed, then manifolding happens and the rest of it just balances itself out. Funny how that works for everything. So when setting up our screws, right, into 2 machines, hook it up to a line. So this line of screws is now 200. Hook it up to our machines. And if you don't want to overlap into infinitum, you can do this. Wow, would you look at that? Isn't that the prettiest thing you've ever seen? No? Okay. So you could continue to do that as well. Put this into the machines. Oh, why is that so weird? Actually, it's weird. Okay. And then we can take that from this one. Oh, yeah. And then last but not least, take this and do something like that. This one might not have room to connect. Oh, it connects just fine. And so now each machine is going to get the appropriate number of screws as they need, and it's just going to work out. Now, we don't actually need 8 of these, we need 7.5, so just pick one of them to make it 50. It'll work. It's not that magical. Things actually just happen to work around here most of the time when you know, design it well. So, last but not least, these just need power, and we're ready to produce. So, let's go power pole. No, there's already wire there. Okay. Cool. Power pole. Power pole. Power pole. Then we just need to find something to hook that up to, and they should all be yellow, which is perfect, and they all should go to green eventually and start making rotors. Now, we haven't pulled the rotors out yet, but that's okay, because all that is mergers, right? And this only produces 30 a minute or something. It's pretty slow, so you can run it all through one set of mergers really easily. And let's see on this side. Do I even have room for a merger? Nope, so I guess we're running them this way. Or you? Nope. Now we just hook that up to this merger here. And that'll bring our rotors all the way around here to the front. Where if I rebuild this, we actually point this out towards the rock. And then I should be able to take from... Oh, I'm just missing steel beams. Oh, okay. Alrighty, and there are rotors all done, dusted, and hooked up. This is going to take some time to balance itself out, as most of these things will. But it's going to be producing at a rate that is above what we care about, so it doesn't really matter. So just enjoy your monstrosity that you've made, right? And let's continue moving forward. So now we have stators and rotors. As I said, we don't need stators for much, but we do need stators to make these automated wires, and you should need 100 of them. Let me double check that. Yeah, you're going to need 100 of them. So pull out that 100 right now, and I do not believe these are used for anything else, like, ever. They might be made in, like, one crafting recipe or something, and if you need them, we can figure that out. I will figure that out later if we need them. But for right now, this is all you should need. If you want more, just because you're worried about it, you can pull them out here. But I won't be pulling them out, so if we need them later, oops. And we'll figure it out from there. They're used in, like, one recipe later in the game, but that doesn't matter for now, I think. Yeah. So, all that's left to do is make our motors. We are going to lay down 3 assemblers worth of stuff for motors. 1, 2, 3. And everything else is being manifolded, but because we have 3 of them, I feel like we should just do balancing, because the math works out easily. Because, wow, balancing. It's so easy when it's 3. General rule of thumb, if the factors of the number, like the prime factors, are 3s and 2s, you could always balance it pretty easily. If they're not 3s and 2s, like if it has a 5 or a 7, and it's like, who cares? 3s and 2s, though, you can balance. And then all we have to do is run these lines over here. And sure, we can... Why not? Does this look stupid? Yeah, a little bit. Let's run it over this way. Let's not intentionally make things that look dumb. There we go. How excellent is that? Then just 1 power pole here. Find anything to hook it up to. Make sure you set them to motors, because if you don't set them to motors, you're going to be a little sad. And just like that, we have motor production at 15 a minute, which is pretty good. We can run them all into 1 merger, which we then, of course, can run into a storage container. For funsies, I'm going to put down 2 storage containers. There is a reason for this, and the reason is, simply put, motors are one of those items that you just need a lot of. Like, a lot of the buildings later in the game are going to use motors, so you might as well start stockpiling them now. Maybe this whole thing never fills up, and that's okay. It barely costs anything to put this down, right? It's 20 steel beams and 20 steel pipes. We have, like, infinite of those already. So, you might as well just set them down, let it fill, and if it doesn't fill, it doesn't fill. If it fills, it fills. It's awesome. And there you go. That is it. We have done it. We have made motors. Woohoo! Which means we're kind of done with Phase 2. We've got a little bit more to do, but it's really not going to take that long. So, let's get cracking. Just by the way, I was looking at my smelter blueprint, and I realized I forgot a connection right here on the back end. So do be careful, like super careful, when you're designing stuff, and make sure you test it. When we finished motors, I just watched it for, honestly, a few seconds, and was just looking for any problematic things, right, that weren't manifold-based, because some of the issues were manifold-based. And I just noticed that this machine was never running. I went into it, and you can see now it's running 100%. But when you see machines are running at 0% or odd percents that don't make sense, that's a good thing to look into. When we're talking about manifolding, though, it gets tricky because, well, some of the machines on the end aren't going to be running 100% yet. So sometimes you need to wait, come back. It also tends to not matter if instead of making 15 motors a minute, we're making 14.8. We would never know the difference, so. Alright, so we're back working towards milestone completion, and the first one we're going to complete is expanded power infrastructure. Now, this will let you do a few things. One, you can build these power poles. The ones with the platform just let you climb to the top and stand on them, and the ones without don't have that. Now, these are pretty cool because you can really span long distances with these. And therefore, you don't need as many poles to run the power. They're also really good with the zip line, which we don't have unlocked yet, but we're actually just about to go and do that soon in a few minutes here. But the real reason we want these is for these bad boys right here. Which apparently require heavy, not heavy frames. What are they called? Modular frames? Modular frames. And we're going to want to place down a couple of these. But we'll just place down the 5 or so I can place down right now. And I guess we'll just place them right here. I'm going to place 4, I guess. And you can daisy chain them together, which means you can hook them up to each other. And then just hook up one to power. And now what these do is they slowly charge a backup source of power. And this backup source of power will last for some time if you ever go above your power limit. Having a bunch of these means you can live a long time off of no power or like dead power. And they're pretty good. A thing that people like to do with them is you charge these up, and once they're full, you disconnect them so that if you need to, you can reboot your power. Like you have a power source to use for a little bit while you fix the problem. You just disconnect it, go fix the problem, and then reconnect it. Is what people do. That's not how I use them, but it's what some people do. The plan is to not have any problems with power. So we're just going to not have problems with power. It's just that simple. Boom. Okay, so it is time for us to complete phase 2 with the parts we need. And to do so, we're just going to lay down assemblers, and we're going to feed them from storage containers. Welcome to how you do space parts all the time. Nobody actually does space parts. Space parts aren't real. Space parts can't hurt you. There are people who actually automate them, but those people are crazy. So this first one here is going to make automated wiring. And this is it. This is all we need for automated wiring. Next, we're going to set up 4 assemblers. for versatile frameworks. And let's get those all set up. Versatile frameworks. Cool. And these are all going to come from... Let's see, I probably need industrial storage containers for these because, let's see, how many steel beams is that? That's 6,000 steel beams. 500 modular frames can probably come from this. How much do these hold? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 6 is 48. Times 200, so this can hold all we need. Perfect. If I did math correctly, I'll double check myself 6 times. Yeah, perfect. And what we're going to do is we're going to split this so that it goes evenly into all of these. So this is just going to be really simple dual split setup. Here, here. And of all the things not to care about how it looks, this is it, because we're just going to tear this all down when we're done. So it's nice and easy. And just do the same thing over here, another dual split setup. Split, 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 split. Alright, and that is versatile frameworks all set up. Then we're going to need 9 for the smart splitters. Smart plates? Smart plates. Yeah, that's what they're called. Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, come on. Go away, bird. Where'd you go? Go away. 9. 9. Okay. This one's only gonna take 1,000 of things, so we can run them out of storage containers. Just like so. And now we need to do a triple split. Which is pretty easy. Splitter, 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 and just make sure things go where they need to. Not like that. Never like that. So then each one of these needs to go like this. And now each assembler should have exactly 1 belt in it, which they do. And we'll just do the same-ish thing over here. Okie dokie. These need to be set up to be making smart plates. Which, here we go. Okay. And then this one's making versatile frameworks. Perfect. Then we just need to give everything power. Easy enough to do. We can hook this up over here. Alright, now everything has power. Lastly, we just need to merge the different sections together. And they can all just run into one merger line. Because this is not going to be outputting that quickly. In any sense of the word quickly. Like, this is going to output like molasses, honestly. That is A-okay by me. fine. Merger, merger. And another merger here. I could have done this better had I laid it out nicer, but oh well. Too late. And then just hook that up to one of the outputs there. And do the same thing over here. This up to one of the inputs. And then this one just runs into one of the inputs. Alright. Now, everything is all set up. It's absolutely beautiful. What I recommend you do, get yourself a storage, actually get yourself an industrial storage container. Just set it down over here. Put your entire inventory away. Just goodbye inventory. Right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go get those resources on the right. One of which is the 100 stators that I told you to pick up earlier. And we're just going to get all those, put them in the chest. This is going to probably take multiple trips. But you should just have all this stuff laying around. Like, for example, your rotor chest is probably full or really close to full. Mine is basically full. And we're going to take 1,000 things out of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you have it here, you don't even have to count. It'll just fill it up for you. Get the smart plates rolling first. Because they're going to take the longest. At about an hour. Let's see, where are our reinforced plates? They're over here. Except for the fact that I can't move. Help! I'm stuck. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is all we're going to need in terms of the smart plates. And we're going to go to their containers. Put the rotors in one side. And the plates in the other side. And then remove them from your to-do list, if you have them on your to-do list. Which is just set that to 0. And then go get the rest of your stuff. Alright, back here at the steel beam plant, go ahead and disconnect that lift right there. And then get yourself access to this top container. If you just take everything out, it's, a little over, but I need some extra anyways. And then if you have any need for extra, it's just always sitting here. You can just come delete this chest later or whatever. Doesn't particularly matter, but just make sure you disconnect it so that now only this bottom one fills up. That'll be important later. Alright, now with that, this should take about another 50 to 60 minutes from here. So we're looking at about an hour. There's one problem that's going to arise at the end of this, where some belts are going to be longer than others. And what that means is going to happen is that some of these are going to get incorrect amounts of items, even though they're balanced, right? You don't think that would happen. It happens. Trust me. So it's not going to actually complete unless you put excess items into these, which I'm just not going to do. I'm just not going to put excess items in at all, because I will just fix it later. So if you're like me and you didn't put excess items in, don't worry. We'll come back. We'll fix it later at the end of all this. Not a big deal. But we have 50 minutes that we need to utilize, so let's get utilizing it. First thing, before you leave, tear down your storage container, which should have all your goodies inside of it. If you need anything for building, because we're going to be making, like, a couple minor Mark IIs, excuse me. A couple minor Mark IIs, a few constructors, maybe a few assemblers. Just do a quick sanity check, make sure you have all the stuff on you you're going to need for that. For what we're doing, you're also going to need to make sure that you can make a MaM, a crafting station, and an equipment workshop, which it all looks good. Looks like I have all the stuff I probably need. And make sure you have stuff for belts, too. We're going to do a little bit of belting. We're probably not setting up anything super permanent, but, So just have general supplies on you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to head out by heavy frames. Modular frames. We're going to head out to modular frames. Alright, once you're at heavy modular frames on this rock, which is, I believe, this right here, there is a coal node. Make sure you bring power with you, by the way, which you probably already have power somewhere around here because of lots of things. This is how we went out to coal, roughly. You can get up there in several ways. Your new best way to get up things is the power towers with the platforms. I believe this should reach up there. If it doesn't, you can build the ramp. You can build a conveyor belt. I didn't quite make it. Unlucky. We can do lots of things. Perfect. Beautiful. Ah! Make sure you don't hit the power pole and walk off. Alright. No matter how you get up here, once you get up here, Miner Mark II. Not supposed to fall down just... Oh my god. It wasn't meant to be. Alright. Miner Mark II with power. Once you're up here, you can get rid of this. There is a spitter guy. I'm just going to ignore him. Let's just conveyor belt our way down from here. Beautiful. And we can just leave that right here-ish for now. Off over this way, straight to the east. We haven't actually discovered it yet, so it might take me a second to find it. But right here, there is a sulfur ore node, which we know nothing about. There's also another guy shooting me, which is always fun. But we're just gonna run that over here. We need to bring power to it, so let's do that. You can continue to leave me alone. Alright, and then we're just going to set up 2 storage containers. Sure, I guess there. Run these into those storage containers. Okay. In the meanwhile, plop down your MaM. Your crafting bench. And I believe we need an equipment workshop. Great. We're waiting for that sulfur to come in. It should be here in just a second. It does have to travel a little ways, which is why I would have preferred to have built it over that way, but here we are, whatever. If you want to take care of your newfound friend in the meanwhile, we can. There's also a hard drive around here, isn't there? Yeah, there is. And we're going to need 1 hard drive. So let's see about getting that right now. Should be right here. Yep. All right. So here's your pro tip. When you're doing hard drive stuff, especially if they're boards, you can just stand on top of it. Oh, this is a free one. Sick. There are other tricks. Like, once you start this animation, if you just exit out and come back in, it'll automatically open. You don't have to wait the animation out. So if you're in a bit of a rush, you can do that as well. Fun fact, you can dismantle these. So if you ever, take them, you can dismantle them. They give you, I think it's semi-randomized loot. And you get to see what it is before you do it. So, Okay, so here we go. We have sulfur in our inventory. We can go to the MaM. We can go to sulfur. We can start doing some sulfur-based research here. There are a few things
This unknown
that
chemical element.
shut up that we're going for in the sulfur tier. Mainly for now, black powder, which is why we needed the coal. So sulfur, black powder, start research. Okay, so we're gonna make some black powder by hand now, which is why we have this. Except, fun fact, it can't be made by hand, and I knew that. And that's what the assembler's for. The assembler is so that we can make black powder. So we need 50 black powder. It's going to take 2 minutes or whatever. Just let it work. While it does, let's look at what else we can get. You can get more equipment hand slots. It's kind of useless. We can unlock this. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. I need to go get some frame. Okay, so need some sulfur. Alright, let's unlock experimental power generation. Which is awesome. That is going to allow you to unlock compacted coal. And compacted coal is not very useful on its own, but that allows you to unlock this later. Okay? We can't do it now because we don't have access to fuel just yet. And compacted coal, I think, can be made here. Am I correct? No, of course not. So you need a second assembler. Compact. Oh, well, you know, it probably helps if you research it. It helps if you research it. Compacted coal is mostly used for, like, better coal power, but it's not that great. It's kind of in the who cares category. And we don't need a lot of it, right? We only need, what, like 15? So we're going to make 15, and then we're kind of done here. But we do still need this. We have our black powder. That's perfect. Sulfur. Beautiful. Okay, and what does that allow us to do? That allows us to make these things right here called nobelisks. You also need a nobelisk detonator, which means we need an object scanner, which means we need screws, which means, remember those like 30 screws I threw away? I shouldn't have thrown them away. Ugh, I'm such an idiot. Okay, so make yourself an object scanner. Make yourself an obelisk detonator. Detonator. And then make yourself a few nobelisks. You can make as many of these as you want. They're mostly not useful to me. You can make them if you want. So the reason they're not useful to me is because these are just better, and we can get those pretty closely around the corner, along with these, the rifle. And I think down here is explosive. No, not explosive rifle ammo. I think down there is something we don't care about. It is explosive. It's turbo ammo. That's what it is. So these two things are going to be like the bread and butter godsend. They're what we're really here for. Along with turbo fuel, which we can't get just yet. So let's go use our newly found nobelisks in a second. Make sure you have more than enough compact coal. Let's pick everything up here. You can leave the containers if you wish. But I am just going to go back and pick all of this up. Okay, so right here, behind our base, you can see there's the copper mines over there. First of all, there's a yellow slug here. Wow, incredible. But more importantly, there is actually a node right here that, oh no, it's covered up. Ow, hey, you knocked that off. If only, right, if only there were some way that we could uncover this. Cracked rock. Wow. So go ahead and equip your Noblest Detonator. R to reload. Left click to throw it down. Walk a little bit away. Right click to blow up. Wow! We did it! Yay! So this right here is the next resource we're going to want, which is called a Caterium. And the fun thing about Caterium, I don't know if it's particularly fun, but the fun thing about Caterium is that we're actually going to automate this. At least minorly. So let's do ourselves a favor. And let's just drag it on over here. It's been a long time since I've been at the early game coal operation, but here it is. So we're going to want to do some minor tweaking to the coal operation, because we actually want to steal this copper here. But we don't want to destroy anything that we've done. So what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade this miner to a Mark II. Then we're going to put a splitter, hopefully. Yep. And if you place the splitter on the belt, it'll just automatically split it. I don't think we have to upgrade this, but I'm going to upgrade this anyways, just to be sure. And so now things should just continue working as if we never touched it. But we freed up a node for ourselves, and we're going to need that there in just a second. Let's just do a little foundationing. I don't think I can do too much anyways. So first things first, I think we have to run this into a storage container. Just to get a couple of Caterium for research. Let's see, Caterium. Start research. Okay, then we need like 50. And once you've picked up your 50, you can go ahead and remove that.
It has been added as a viable alternative to gold in industrial applications, specifically in advanced electronics due to its super...
Okay.
Now, completed.
That is a pure node, if I'm not mistaken. And because it's a pure node, that means it should be outputting 120? 240? It's 240, right? Yeah. Whew. And 240 is, you know, quite a bit. Take all, throw away, take all. Okay. So with 240, we can probably place down 3 smelters. Let's take a look. Nope, it's more than 3. And place down 5. We're not going to min-max this because it just kind of doesn't matter for right now. But we'll get 5 going. Or we could do 4. Let's do 4. 4's a cute number. Because 4 allows us to double split. And double splitting is convenient. There we go. This one doesn't have power. Alright. Now they're all whirring up. Before we can do any crafting, we do need to collect these in a container. So, container. Just like that. I can't remember if I left the MaM on the ground or not. I did not. I picked her up. We just need to get our first 50 from this, which won't take too long, but it'll get here. Alright, and with that, we have the ability to make quick wire, which is just wire, but it's gold. Wow. Okay, from here, I personally don't care about the zip line. Zip line can be kind of cool, it can be kind of fun. We're already past it. It's in, like, terms of usefulness. It's not worth anything to me. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get these 3 right here in this kind of L shape. But on our way to doing that, we're gonna do some automation. And I haven't pre-planned this in any way, shape, or form. I am just doing nope. I am just winging it. So 12 to 60. So if you want to see how things are wung, here's how. We can do 4 of those essentially, and we can just kind of do 1-to-1sies. Or I could just say I don't need that much and we can do 3. Yeah, I don't need that much, just do 3. Oops. Because what that will allow me to do is I'm going to put 2 splitters down, so splitter into splitter. And that might look ridiculous, but I want to be able to take some different direction, you know? And so then we're going to run this into quickwire. Great. Set down a merger here. Run this into a storage container. Boom. Give these all power. And there you go. Congratulations. We're going to have something like 180 quick wire a minute, which between you and me is more quick wire than we'll probably ever need in terms of like building and whatnot. So this is an insane amount of quick wire. All right, so we're just going to wait here until we have 100 and then we'll keep moving forward. All right, once you have 100, we get this researcher rolling. Which, honestly, is just, like, a weird in-between research. I don't even know why that one exists. Maybe it's just the tree looks like a tree and looks nice. I don't know. So here's what we're here for. Eventually this, but I don't care about that right now, and we don't have plastic, so whatever. I don't think... We could go... We'll get this. We'll get this. Because this is relevant-ish. But we're really here for these 2. Which you can see, AI limiters are going to take copper sheet. So while we wait, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a copper sheet factory. And we're going to do it really nice and easy. Just something like this. Gets these rolling right away. Next up, it's merging time. It's merging time. Get them merged. And I think we can only do 3 constructors of this stuff. Is that true? Yeah, it's only 3 constructors. So we're going to place down 3 constructors here-ish. If I can fit them. That looks great. Beautiful. And then we're going to run that into a splitter here. And this will make copper sheets. Which, if we just run okay, then run those all into a merger. Just like so. Beautiful. Next up, we should have enough quick wire. I can't help. Okay, so we should have enough quick wire to get the AI limiter research. And actually, if we just wait a little bit longer, not too much, we should now be able to get both researches at the MaM that I think I keep destroying the MaM. Which is fine. It's fine. I just keep forgetting that I destroyed the MaM a few seconds ago. Come on. Ethereum. Research this. And research this.
Power pole Mark II.
Okay, I didn't actually look at it. Beautiful. Okay, so what we unlocked is Power Poles Mark II, and you're gonna see all they take, right, in addition to, like, some random rods and concrete, is just some quick wire. But we have a really good production rate of quick wire, like a more than we need production rate of quick wire. So what we can do is we can place these down and look at them. And you'll notice that it allows 7 connections over 4. The jump from 4 to 7 is kind of insane. And the fact that we've been putting it off for this long is kind of insane. Because I'm kind of insane. Haha. But those are really good. I'm going to add those to my hotbar shortly. Just not right now. Because that's going to require us to have Caterium on us. And between you and me, I don't want to carry around Caterium. And we're not going to. So we're just going to put that right back in there. Okay, next. We want to make AI limiters. Which are the other thing we just researched. And between you and me, AI limiters are just like a part that is made in an assembler. You fool. And you knew that. Set it down here. And we can have to look at them. AI limiters. They take a smidge of copper sheets and a lot of quick wire, right? Like that's a good amount of quick wire right there to make AI limiters. But the trick is, boy howdy, we do not need to make these quickly at all. Like, we can make these so slowly. So if we were concerned about power for any reason, we could, like, reduce the number of things we have here because we are not needing to make them that quickly. Which I guess means that if we just place down another constructor, probably even 2, right? Because these are 12. Yeah. We can just take the excess. I'm going to slap a splitter on the middle of this belt somewhere where it'll let me. Apparently it doesn't want to, but... Oh my, what did that do? Huh. Okay, don't use curve mode if you want to put splitters on things, by the way. Pro tip, it doesn't work out well. Okay, so these are being made, and I'll tell you what, we can actually run them into this same merger line. Just because of how not quick they are at producing, I believe. 60 a minute? 60 times 5 is 300. Yeah, okay, that'd be a problem. But that's okay, we don't need this anyways. So this one is going to run up and over into that machine right there. So that now we can make AI limiters. I don't know why I did this. It's fine. Not a big deal. And here we go. We have AI limiters being made. Bada bing, bada boom. It's just that simple. Run that into a storage container for funsies. And there you go. Now these craft pretty slowly. We're not going to make them at rate. And trust me, it doesn't matter. The amount of these we are going to use throughout the course, like the entire course of the playthrough, is probably at or below 100. Yeah, we might use a few more than 100, but like not many. I think they are used in some recipe later in the game, but we're not going to be using these for that recipe. These are just for our own personal uses. So we're going to wait around here for just a second, and so that we can get 10 of them. Okay, so we have our smart splitters here. Let's go ahead, do our final Caterium research for now. Which, sorry, those are AI limiters. The AI limiters allow us to get the smart splitters. And I could talk about smart splitters and what they do, but instead, how about I just show you when the time comes. With all of our MaM researching done, it's now time for us to research our last milestone that we care about, which is Hypertubes. And we're gonna do some little blueprint action right here, except for the fact that I'm apparently out of cable. And we're gonna make a little Hypertube thing, and this will be pretty easy to place down wherever. So all we're gonna do, and it doesn't matter how you do this. In fact, let's place down 2x2 foundations. So just zoop some 2x2 foundations all the way across. You can do this a little bit smaller. We can actually do just 2 of them. And Hypertubes are this really cool tube thing that like allow you to flow through space. Don't really care. First tube goes there, and then just like 2 clicks apart for each consecutive tube. Just like so, nice and easy. Then get the actual tubing itself, so the supports go there, and then tube every other one together, like so. Then get the entrances, and just make sure it's coming in from the left. Just like so. Get a power pole. We're going to stick with Mark 1s. And then put another one right here. Okay, and there you go. For funsies, if you just like put a power pole here instead of there, you can tell which way is the front, and that'll be important. Hyper tube. So, as it turns out, Hypertubes are just one of the single best forms of transportation in the entire game. They are better than anything and everything. And I'm going to demonstrate why. So, essentially, right now, we have a little bit of time before the elevator stuff is done. And we need to collect Mercer Spheres. And in fact, I want to collect about 20-ish, which is kind of a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch ourselves off into infinity and beyond using Hypertubes. So this is really simple, and because we have the pole on the end, you can tell which way is the correct way. And then just line them up. If you put it in... Oh, what is this? Oh, thank you. That's a new feature that they just added, and I have no idea how to use it, and I'm not about to figure out how. If you just rotate this like that so they line up, we can place down, let's go 4 of these total. Well, I'm missing rotors, so let's do 3. 3 works. And you just make sure you connect them up power-wise. Go out about 2 foundations. Place down 1 final Hypertube support. Drag it all the way up. And then noodle it. Something about like this. And then all you should have to do is give this your power. And off you go. And so these allow you to span quite tremendous distances really quickly. I didn't put enough into that, so we didn't go super far, but that's okay. You can do more. Personal recommendation, save before you do it if you're not very experienced with them, because it's pretty easy to kill yourself and mess it up and whatever. So we are out hunting for Mercer Spheres. And all we're going to do is we're going to follow the Mercer Sphere thing, and we're going to find as many as we can. I don't know how you're going to see this. This might just be in a time-lapse thing. It does not matter how you get the Mercer Spheres, okay? I don't care how you get them. You just need 20-ish. I would say just do this as long as you can. Collect any slugs you see along the way. But try to stay safe while doing this, because you do not need this to interfere or to slow you down. So you can't get to a Mercer Sphere because it's not in a safe location. Just ignore it. We'll come back and be able to get all of them pretty easily. Alright, now that we're back at base, I actually have 30 Mercer Spheres. Oops. I also took a very difficult route through everything we did, so I don't know if I recommend what I did. Um, I mean, I died once, which was to poison clouds that I couldn't see because the swamp sucks. But, yeah, so anyways, we now need to make some fluctuators, which is why I picked up the wire. I don't have any S.A.M on me, which makes sense, so gotta go make that. Okay. So now, with that, we should be able to go into here. Start our first research. Okay, so dimensional depots are storage depots that you can access from anywhere, which basically means you start playing on creative mode. It's not the best at first, and it kind of sucks until upgraded, but that's not what we're here to do right now. Yeah, we don't even have the upgrade for that, which would be nice. Okay, right, so let's look at dimensional depots, and, just look at what they take. So the biggest costs here are modular frames, Mercer spheres, and, fluctuators. Those are the big costerinos. Now, what kind of is a shame about these is we cannot automate fluctuators yet. In fact, they can't even be automated for like 2 more tiers of milestones because they're on tier 6. So, but doesn't mean we can't handcraft stuff, you know. And then here's the real beauty of this. Here's how you use it. Again, at first it's really slow, but essentially anywhere that you have a container that you're putting important stuff into, you just hook it up like so, and it's gonna upload them to the stockpile. Now, it can only upload 1 stack at a time currently, so it's not like the best thing in the world. But we're gonna upgrade them once we get them all placed down. So we need to place some, see how much we have left over, make upgrades. You're gonna need about 16 of these for placing, which is gonna be very costly up front. Actually, the best way to do these is like this. So there are some things that you may just not want to dimensional depot right now because you don't want to afford the depots. Anything you're using frequently, I would depot, and I'm going to go through and depot everything that I can. The one trick is we're going to need a lot of this here stuff so that we can, craft all the dimensional depot stuff. So let's just sit here and do that. Okay, so now that you've placed down all your dimensional depots that you're happy with, it's time to upgrade them. Because I have 13, and these initial upgrades take 3 and 3, that'll leave me with 7 left over, which is a good amount. As a general rule, making the stack size bigger in the depots tends to be better than speed. So if you have to pick one, I always prioritize this left column over the right column, because it usually doesn't matter how quickly the items get in, unless you're like doing something massive with concrete, right? It's more just about having access to a lot of items, and then they can slowly refill over time. Also, if you happen to have 17 computers from any hard drive stuff, this is a really good use of them, because it is. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna do the upload speed first, because I need to make more fluctuators for this. And as it turns out, I just don't have enough steel pipes on me, probably. So I just need them to make faster. Another thing to do. Click this take from inventory before depot, always. Have that turned on. That means you'll eventually clear out your inventory, and then if you're dismantling stuff, you'll have space, and your inventory is eventually, like, in the nearish future, going to become obsolete, which is what we're hoping for. So there's the expansion as well. We do want extras, so however you do it, which varies based on how many resources you picked up, right? However you do it, just make sure that you have a couple of extra spheres for what we're going to be crafting in phase 3, because guess what? You're also going to want access to that through here. So what's really cool about that is now anytime you craft something, it does not have to be in your inventory. For example, if I wanted to craft screws and I didn't have iron rods on me for some strange reason, it would take them from this just automatically. If I want to build and I don't have any of this stuff on me, it will take from this. So, like, modular frame-based stuff. I don't have any on me, but I can still make a foundry, for example. Even though it takes modular frames, as you can see. So there's a lot of really cool things this does. It makes it so that inventory management just isn't a thing anymore, and that's awesome. Let's go over here and, first of all, fix up whatever got unbalanced and let it take care of itself. So that we can make the final parts we need. How many of these do I need? It makes 2. Do I need 4 of these? Go. And that'll take 2 minutes, but that's okay. The wires are done. And then over here, what? We need 1 more smart plate. Which is not what I wanted to do. Remembering how to split items is so difficult. It's that one. I got it. Have to take it out, split, throw the one in there. Okay, great. So, just clean this all up. The space parts will launch soon. We'll be ready to launch soon. Alright, and with space parts all cleaned up, I think it's time for phase 3.